All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another weekly episode of Advocacy Arena, where we gather to inform and inspire civic engagement each week, each Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern and 12 p.m. Central Time. So glad that you have joined us here today. And we're just going to kind of dive right in. I have asked a couple of speakers to come and talk about a couple of holidays or memorials, just points of history. And I'd like to remind everyone that I posted a few articles yesterday about the history of the Kentucky Derby, which was held this past weekend. And so I will put those in the Jumbotron and Nest because our African American roots are very much rooted in the early beginnings of the Derby. But I would like to give my co-host an opportunity to say hello. And then I am going to go right into two of my invited guests here to explain a commemoration that we have today. And I'm so glad that they're both are able to join us. So I want to dive right in. Sister, if you want to greet everyone, and then we'll move to our two guests for our historical update and background and update. And then I'm going to come back to you for some updates that I know that you want to share with us. So over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone, on this first Monday in May here. I'm happy to be here. Glad to be with you all and looking forward to us continuing our conversation and continuing to be advocates for truth, for facts, for democracy. So I look forward to today's conversation and just glad to be with you all. Thank you.
All right, my dear. Well, let's get our discussion started. I am going to start off with Nair and then Joseph, because Joseph will be giving us a kind of a twofer because of his heritage and background. And I am so thankful that they're both here. And I know Nair is caregiving for his ailing father. So thank you for just taking a little time out of your day. Our gratitude, I just can't really express it. It means a lot, and I want you to know that we are continuing to pray and uplift your dad and all those that are involved in his care. So, without further ado, Nair, over to you, my dear.
Wow, the soul sister, all my friends. So about an hour ago, the Holocaust Memorial Day finished here in Israel to remember the 6 million Jews that we lost with World War II. It's a different experience, and I wanted to share my experience. I don't want to get into politics. I just want you guys to know that my father is still alive. He's a Holocaust survivor. He's 91 years old. It was just him and three of his brother and his parents left from their whole family. And then I had my mom that I lost 2 years ago, that nobody left. And I just want you to know that this is why democracy, this is why it's so important for us to spread love and peace, because we cannot afford bad people controlling our life. We cannot have no more wars. And I was reading what you said, and I want you just to know what's happened. Why we have two Holocaust memorial. We have one the International Memorial, Holocaust Memorial Day, and then we have one the Jewish Memorial Day that was today every year. It's 24 hours. It started for us in Israel yesterday, and then it's go 24 hours till about an hour from the sun go down to 24 hours to the next day. So about an hour, maybe less than an hour, it just finished. And it's a very special day, and I want you to know what's so special about it. The country, we don't celebrate anything. It's a sad day. At 10 a.m., we have sirens, so everybody stop driving. Everybody stop, do whatever they do. Muslim, Jews, Christian, stop everything to remember the 6 million Jews, half of the Jewish population that we had in World War II. So almost half. We were about 15 and we lost 6. So I want you to know that as the son for the Holocaust survivor, I'm praying. I'm not a religious person, but I am praying for one thing. I'm praying that we all remember we have a life to live. We're not here to die. We need to remember our history, our amazing, and it doesn't matter. We all have our history. We have Black History Month. We have Women History Month. We have so much history. And yes, we have the Holocaust history today of history too, Memorial Day, for 6 million people. And I posted some picture of when I took my parents to Miami Beach to the Holocaust memorial place over there. In the statues of the metal of the babies go to heaven, and you can see my mom and my dad crying because they couldn't even leave. It was so hard for them. And yes, we had the Yad Vashem in Israel too, and that it's a huge I don't know, maybe Joseph can explain it better than I do, but it's a museum to remember those 6 million people. But I do want to say in the same time that I do want you to know that we have two, Memorial Day. Yom HaShoah, it's designed and it's to remember the Jews. But me as a person, I remember everybody. We have millions and millions of people died in a war, World War II, just because the hate of the Nazis. And I don't want to forget any of them. I don't want to forget any single person that lost his life to the Nazis, because it's important for us, because we cannot have the history repeat and come back again. And it's up to us to be strong. And I know it's painful because it's the worst day always since I'm a kid. And this is how we grow up as children. Because for us, this day it's really, really sad. Like I can remember my mom watching TV, crying and crying for 24 hours. And I lighted yesterday 3 candles, a memory for my mom, one for her family and one for my father's family. And I do want to tell you that I had to pull it down because people told me that in the comments that they wish I was dead too. And cannot happen. We cannot have so much hate. We need to stop the hate. We cannot wish for anybody to get killed, even if they don't agree with us, even they're totally different. Death is not the answer. Killing people is not the answer. Thank you, Dee. Thank you, soul sister. And I'm sorry I'm emotional. I'm shaking because I want you to remember every single person that died. The 6 million people, so many other Russian, black, white, everybody. Don't ever forget the history, because if we forget the history, we will get it back. And we see what's happening today in the war. And we must stop it. We must stand united together for one thing. It's called democracy. And he was posting something about democracy. What is at stake? Our life is at stake. Because if we lose, we have no voice. We have no freedom. We have no rights. So right now, we must only think about our grandparents, our parents, our grandparents, our children. It's all what we have to think about, our future, and just spread love and peace. And I know it sounds hippie, but I don't care. I'd rather be a hippie than a person of hate. Thank you.
Mir, thank you so much again, just for taking time out of your day to come in and share the history of this Memorial Day with us. And it's understandable that you would be emotional. I think anyone who has feelings is allowing themselves to truly understand the history, what it entails, not just the date, the events, but the actual lives, the people. It is so important because when we forget these things, and as you said, Mir, we all have our history. Now, as an African American, we have a lot of history, and it is important that it is not forgot, that our stories are told. All of our stories are very, very important. That is how humanity, it makes us who we are, our societies, and it helps us to sustain them, to learn from the times and the ways in which we have veered off path into the ugliness of humanity. But it also can be a reminder to help us steer clear, stay on paths that embrace and uplift the highest in our society and in humanity. So thank you for being so vulnerable with us. And again, grateful beyond words near. And sending you so much love right now. So many good vibes to you, your father, all his caregivers, and to Chi Chi too. We cannot forget Chi Chi because I know that Chi Chi is a big part of helping you to stay strong. So, with that being said, I'm moving next to my next guest speaker, who, as I said, is giving us a twofer because we also yesterday just celebrated Cinco de Mayo. You know, some of us did, but there's history behind that. And I want us to understand that a bit. And Joseph also happened to have Jewish heritage as well. So I wanted him to speak to both of those things. And then we'll ease into a little of his election update if he wants. And then Susan, I see, has been moved to speak. So I'm so glad. Susan, do you have a few moments? Because I know a lot of you guys are listening from home, working, and you still a few minutes here and there. Do you have a few moments, Susan?
I do.
Okay, all right. So Joseph and then Susan.
Well, hello, Ms. D. Hello, Soul Sister. So glad to be back in Advocacy Arena and then another Monday back to my regular schedule after a week of fun in Northern Nevada last week. It was a wonderful week in the Reno, Lake Tahoe area. Thank you for inviting me to speak regarding a couple of, I guess a one is holiday and the other is obviously more somber remembrance. So thank you for asking me to speak on that. So I will first start with Cinco de Mayo. So Cinco de Mayo commemorates the Battle of Puebla, which Puebla is a city in central Mexico, sort of east of Mexico City, in 1862 when the Mexican army beat back the French army who had been intervening in Mexico. It was during a time when there was a lot of European intervention in Mexico, primarily not just the French but also the English and Spanish were intervening in Mexican affairs. And this was during a time that Mexico was still a fledgling country. The War of Independence started in 1810, but Mexico didn't fully gain its independence from Spain until 1821. And then 2 decades later was embroiled in war with the US, in which it lost a lot of territory, which, now most of the southwestern US, what is now the southwestern US, basically came under American control for Mexico. So Mexico was very vulnerable during time to outsiders. And so this celebrates victory in the battle. Unfortunately, the French, the Mexicans back a couple weeks after this battle and eventually overthrew President Benito Juarez and installed the Emperor Maximilian, which lasted for roughly about 10 years or so. And then the Mexicans were finally able to take control of their own government. But the significance of it over the years has become more of a celebration of Mexican culture. And I was doing a little bit of reading and research on it last night. And here in the U.S., the celebration of Mexican culture kind of started during the presidency of Franklin Roosevelt because of the good neighbor policy towards Latin American countries. And it was, people were beginning to take note that in Mexican American enclaves in different parts of the country, people were celebrating this particular day. And so bit by bit it became, like I said, it became an celebration of Mexican culture more than anything else. It's actually celebrated more so US than it is in Mexico. It's not the National Day of Mexico, which that is September 16th, which is the day that the War of Independence began. And that is celebrated, of course, much more so in Mexico. It is celebrated in various parts of the U.S., particularly in the Southwest U.S. I know in my community it's celebrated, I would say probably more so than Cinco de Mayo. But the importance of Cinco de Mayo really is about the celebration of Mexican culture and the impact of what we've had on American society. So it's in some ways has become kind of like what St. Patrick's Day is to Irish culture. But I would encourage everyone to look at Cinco de Mayo beyond just, a celebration of, an excuse to eat and drink, but really would encourage everyone to just look at the celebration of Mexican culture and the impact of what we have had on American society. So it is an important day. Me personally, I don't quite celebrate it as much as I celebrate September 16th. I mean, to me, it's a very important day because it's the Independence Day, and I think those of us that live in the southwestern U.S. need to recognize the importance of it. Is that it began in a way our process of eventually becoming who we are now, part of US. So that kind of is Cinco de Mayo on a nutshell. In a nutshell, again, it was just during a time of very heavy European intervention in Mexico when Mexico was a very fledgling country and trying to stand on its own. Of note, of course, it was during the time when the U.S. was embroiled in civil war, and the U.S. was facing some outside intervention in the Civil War as well. I forget which countries specifically, but I know there was at least one European country that was sort of aiding the Confederacy. So this was still during a time where European countries were losing their colonies in the Americas, but were still trying to intervene. So that kind of sums up Cinco de Mayo there. So the next topic that he asked me to speak about was Yom Hashoah. And yes, as some of you know, I have partial Jewish ancestry. My paternal grandfather was Jewish, and I am of the, if you look at my DNA results, yes, I am of the Jewish ethnicity, even though I've never been the faith. So, kind of as Nir mentioned, it's a day to it's basically Israel's day of commemoration of the 6 million Jews that were murdered during the Holocaust. The first day of remembrance took place in 1949 as the remains of some Holocaust victims were brought back to Israel to be laid to rest. And in the 1950s, the Israeli parliament, or the Knesset, took steps to formalize an actual day of remembrance. And I think it falls on based on Jewish calendar, so it can fall either in April or so just depending on the Jewish calendar. So I looked at next year, it will fall on April 23rd. But I think this year it's a little bit more poignant given the events of October 7th, which was worst loss of Jewish life since World War II. And given that there are millions of people around the world that are calling for the deaths of Jews, and they can't separate that from the actions of Israel's government. We're seeing it in Europe. We're seeing it in North America. It's very, very dangerous. Think back to 2017 when Charlottesville. We're living in very dangerous times for the Jewish people, and this is why, Ms. D, as you said, it's important to not forget our history, because those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. I read something just the other day that something particularly poignant for me is that it's been the 80th anniversary of when the Nazis fully invaded Hungary, and close to 500,000 Hungarian Jews were murdered in a very short amount of time. They were just in mass numbers sent to Auschwitz and murdered. And one of my goals before this life is over is to find out if I was related to anybody that was murdered in the Holocaust. I have found the names of many people with my last name who were murdered, as well as some of the same last name as my great grandmother. I know that, well, all of my great grandfathers came to the U.S. Everybody was here before World War One. I think that maybe my great grandmother had some family that stayed in Europe, so I don't know if they even survived World War One. But if they survived World War One, if they were affected by the Holocaust, so that's kind of my mission, is to somehow find that out if I had relatives that were in the Holocaust. So the saying "never again" is now. I take that very, very because really it can happen to any of. And as we see right now in the current political climate in the US, there is one political party that aims to do the vast majority of people in the United great harm, and everybody that's no. And that's why we're fighting so hard to defeat fascism this November, because of all want to do us. So that's what I'll say on that. And then real quickly again, yes, per your what earlier. I really couldn't gauge too much of the political climate in Northern Nevada last week. I think everybody's kind of waiting until after the primary, which is next month. We'll see who Jackie Rosen's opponent is going to be. Whoever it is going to be a hardline MAGA. We know that. And I have a feeling it is going to be a very nasty campaign. And it would not surprise me if there are anti-Semitic undertones from the whoever the Republican challenger is, because that's who the MAGAs are. They will try to, throw anti-Semitic tropes at Jackie Rosen. So I'm bracing myself for what is going to be a potentially nasty campaign. Also, you might have seen on my timeline, I've been retweeting stuff, particularly from Susie Lee, from the representative from Nevada's 3rd district, because I think that's probably going to be the one Democratic House from Nevada that probably going to be the hardest battle. I think it's only a D+1 district. So I'm trying to highlight her as much, and especially the fact that she was named pretty much the most bipartisan member of Congress, which in her district, bipartisanship is key. So you'll see me retweeting more about Nevada politics. Also, I'm going to pivot in a couple of weeks as I have a work trip to Arizona scheduled 2 weeks from tomorrow. So you'll probably see me retweeting more about that. So thank you so much, Ms. D and Soul Sister, for allowing me to come up and share this couple of things about my heritage, which are very important to me. And if time permits this week, I may hold an additional space just to talk a little bit more about Nevada and maybe some other things that we talked about in this forum recently. Thank you so much.
Well, no, again, thank you. I appreciate you sharing your time and your knowledge and your family history with us. I think it is so important. And with that, I am going to go to Susan, and then I will go back to my co host for some updates, and then we'll do a little bit of rundown of some of the trending top news stories that I'd like to touch on. Some we can go in depth on discussion wise, but I definitely want to make sure that we touch on them a little bit today. So, Susan, you're up next, and then Soul Sister.
Yes, hello everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you for letting me speak, Miss D and Soul Sister. I appreciate you letting me talk. I didn't really I mean, I wanted to talk about the primaries here in Pennsylvania, just a short little thing. But once I heard Nia, I had to, raise my hand and say, I need to talk. I want to send Nia the biggest hugs and love, the interweb waves, whatever you're calling it. My heart goes out to him, sending the best wishes for his dad. Nia is such a light here on this platform. I always appreciate his posts and positive messages that he sends, and I just want him to know I mean, it makes me really emotional too, because I don't know, I could feel the pain. So, and I don't know, I apologize. I didn't mean
No,
to.
it's okay. I really had to work myself to keep my emotions at bay. But, we're human. So we are
Yes,
emotional creatures. And if we cannot get emotional about the horrors of
yes,
this particular event in world history, then I don't know what, can. I mean, we have,
yes.
again, like I said, we all have our history, but it's okay. So go ahead, share with us what you wanted to about your elections and anything else. I'm just so glad that you were able to come out and talk today.
Yes, yes, and on a personal note, I mean, I am a native German. I came to the U.S. in '97. I got my dual citizenship. Feel very privileged to have that. But I know from my time in school in Germany, I mean, we went through the history, and that was one thing that always has me. I mean, I don't, that's to make the connection to the States. I've never understood that the history here is not being taught in the same way, because people, if you don't teach what has happened in your own country with your own people, how are you supposed to do better? I mean, I grew up, my mom was born in 1941, Pearl Harbor Day. So she was a baby herself, you know, but her parents for sure had to made certain decisions. And I know my grandpa was, he probably was a Nazi. I'm not sure. We never talked about it. He died during World War II on the front lines. So I don't know. She remarried, and that man, my grandpa, he was really a more democratic socialist. So he was on the other side. But anyhow, that's just a side. But what I'm trying to say, as a German and growing up in Germany and learning about what my people have done, that was, to me, it was never, I never understood when people say, "Oh, I'm so proud to be." When I came over here, it was amazing to me. Everybody's flying their flag, and, "Oh, I'm proud. I'm a proud American." And I always thought I would never say I'm a proud German or I'm so proud to be from. I mean, because I felt like this is just. It doesn't really have anything to do with being proud or pride. It's just luck where you are born. And you know, I never felt, I don't know, I see myself, I can live basically anywhere because I feel people are, and we just have to, and that's why I love Nia so much, because we gotta love each other no matter what, no matter where. I mean, everybody has their history, has their traditions, has their customs, and just live and learn, and you know, appreciate that we are different in so many ways, which is beautiful. So anyhow,
No,
I
I absolutely agree. And I had forgotten that you told me about your German heritage because I have a very good friend who has kind of a mixed heritage, German and Luxembourgish. He lives
okay.
in Switzerland. And so there is this duopathy within him. And I actually am planning an interview with him. He's kind of prepping for it because on his maternal side, he knew that some of them were actually Nazis, served in, you know, the ranks. And of course, those things were not known until the people were dead. And the reason that he knew a lot of these things is because they didn't have large families, and he happened to be kind of the central repository for
Okay.
the elders that were dying off. He'd inherited, chest and the papers and other things. So it really kind of depressed him at one moment, learning about his own history. And then I think over the years, he's found a way to live with it and to try to understand it better. But one of the things when I first met him, and I've known him for, now over 20 something years, he told me, and this was, like there was, kind of an uproar in his father's side of the family because he married this German woman and Luxembourg was under, the Third Reich's rule. And so, history is fascinating, but at the end of the day, what I try to help people remember when I talk about uncomfortable coalitions here is that at the end of the day, we are all human. And if we can keep that, maintain that, and be able to express our differences and, appreciate the differences, I think that our society will be better and that democracy certainly will be better and is stronger when we have a pluralistic, multicultural, society that affords those rights to all of its citizens. And I feel that that is where the American democracy experiment excels in places that in ways that others don't. It is not perfect, never has been, but it's been the ability of us as Americans, because of the way in which we were founded, to be able to work to bend that moral arc, as our civil rights elders would say. And it's a work in progress. So again, thank you for just sharing that little bit of your family history and the dynamics of that.
Yes, and I wanted.
Susie, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have to tell you, Susie, you don't even know how much I love you. And you represent for me the new generation of the German people that we get along so good. And I love you from my heart. And just
Right.
so you know, and you know, that the relationship between Germany and Israel is the most beautiful and most amazing. And this is why we don't forget, but we forgive and we love and we move on. And Susie, thank you so much for speaking. I just want to give you the biggest hug in the world because I cannot even cry. I am so, you just gave me so much love that I cannot reply back to you how much I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nia. Right back at, and I wanted, now I switch totally the topic. I told Dee a while ago, I was working the primaries. I'm a poll worker here in our little precinct, and I was a little bit disappointed this year in the primaries. I mean, primaries, I know the turnout is always low, but I felt like, man, there should be more people coming out, but unfortunately, we were just like in the 22% range again, even though we had some positions like primary races in the on the Democratic side for Attorney General. We had several candidates, and for the Auditor General. But anyhow, so that was a little bit disappointing, but once I looked at the result overall and I checked the write-ins, voter services, I really appreciate that they put everything online nowadays. I mean, anybody can do research and look, all over the country, I assume, how local races are turning out. And I saw a bunch of Republican voters on their ballots. They wrote in Joe Biden. I mean, in our count, there were over 330, probably close to 400 voters, Republican voters who wrote in Biden. And that's in addition to all the people who still voted for Nikki Haley, who was still on the ballot. So that was interesting. So there's really, that gives me some hope. And I hope in November that tons of more people will come out and put an end to this. So, and that's what I wanted to share with all of you. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate being allowed to speak here, and sending lots of love to Nia again. So,
Well, thank you, Susan. I appreciate that. And it warms my heart that you were able to observe that there are some people who care about democracy enough to vote for it, even though it is not along their party lines. But I had a little conversation with my co host this morning, and I would say that party is pretty much dead. And in a couple of years, they probably won't even be calling it that because he has already pretty much taken it over when his daughter-in-law, got second in command there at, the RNC. And shortly after, they issued an edict that, any similar iconography, his image, any of those things, they want their cut. So, it won't be long before they'll just change the name altogether. But thank you so much. That warms my heart. Good news. And I'm so glad that you were able to come up and to just kind of instill in Near in a real time kind of way, that people are good at heart, and for us to, I think, witness um, some of the healing that takes place even after atrocities have occurred, what is possible when we look to our humanity. So I want us to just remember that, because we're unfortunately moving in a time in this country where people are tearing away at the fabrics of our humanity and are uplifting and amplifying the worst aspects and normalizing it. I don't want us to be part of that group. So I just appreciate all of you having the spirit and the heart that you do. For humanity. So thanks again, Susan. So up next, we've got 2K, and then I'm going to go back to my co-host and we'll kind of start some of the other topics that we touched on rolling. So 2K, my dear, so glad that you came up today. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay. And I think a lot of what I would like to comment on would probably more properly located with the rundown of current events. So I will hold my tongue about that. But I will, there's one thing that I want to call out just because I'm livid. But I want to start with, first of all, saying, near your tears are my tears. And I want to thank both you and Joseph for offering context, because this is what we get when we learn history. We get the context of compassion. And what you do is you have a quote, Near mentioned the relationship between Germany and Israel, and see that is the result of the learning that comes from understanding and empathy and compassion and seeing how we're really, in my humble opinion, all here to walk each other home. I will draw. I do draw the line where there's no doubt though, and I really, frankly, I resent these. I'll paint with a broad brush and say haters, y'all in this room know, for helping me get in touch with some hard lines for myself, because I'm not taking their stuff, and I did not realize in my own personal spirit that I could detest. People would say, "Don't detest people, detest actions, whatever." But that I could have the intensity of negative feeling toward people who are doing harm and seek to do me, and people who, I'm speaking to people in this room, share the things that I value what I value. You know what? It's not about me. It's about we, And what is it? I think it's a sickness. And the we-ness of it comes in. I believe this quote is attributed to Malcolm X. I don't want to mess it up. But I can't say the precise quote. I will find it and I will post it because I want it in my timeline. Basically, when we shift, when illness is about I, wellness is about we. That's a paraphrase. So we are all here together to combat this. This is no time for both sidesism. And that's what I mean about being furious. No time for shenanigans. And you've probably seen, I just feel personally, I'm offended, betrayed, sickened by the idea that David Plouffe, you all know who he is, worked with
I
the.
saw that because of you, and I shared it with Soul Sister today. And I too feel that same energy, but continue, my dear.
He's teaming up with Satan's Scarecrow to do a podcast. Come on, we know better. And you know what? Looking at you, David, so do we. So I'm vigilant about this. I've already tweeted it. I don't want to see him on Deadline White House. I bet you I could see him on with whatever. Do not platform this mess. This is situation critical, and he's got to know that. I will land my plane there. I would like to come back up later talking about, because I have other thoughts about, but I did want to say to Near and to Joseph, the power of our common humanity comes through awareness of history, and it is, even if you want to be some kind of racist fool out there, it really is shared history, because this is one world, and I don't care what Elno says, we're not getting off of it. We're not. Thank you for letting me speak.
No, my dear, thank you. And you don't have to go anywhere because we're just going to kind of let the conversation flow. But I did want to start with those two historical things to kind of get them out there. So we can just dive right in. First, I want to give my co host an opportunity. She had some updates that she wanted to give us on the union, and she probably has some feelings about some of this because I too have some opinions about that, pretty much, I think, along the lines of you. And there is another one that kind of made me feel the same kind of way, just like, really, at this particular time, you want to do satire? Okay. you know, right. you know, so let's get at it. So, sister, I'm going to give you the floor. And then to Kay, if you want to chime in some more on that, or any of the rest of you who are here on the stage, feel free. And I see you down there, Susan. So I know we're talking your language. If you want to come up and join us in the conversation, feel free. So, sister.
Thank you, Misty. The first thing I want to say is, Near, I love you so much, and my heart goes out to you when I hear all of that emotion. It's hard not to feel empathy, and while I'm already your friend, while I'm already an ally, while I already understand the division of hate, it really brings it home. And I just want to say thank you for feeling safe enough in this space to be as vulnerable as you were. And since we're talking about history, there was an article that I read. And there's a quote by Jay Gould, 138 years ago. He said, "If I can hire one half of the working class to kill the other half, and I've won." And he was a robber baron. And for people who don't understand, this is just like an unscrupulous, ruthless business person of the 19th century. He was a railroad magnate. And it was when both parties were embracing corporatism in a greedy type of way for their own benefit, not for the benefit of people. And I don't think we've moved that far away from it on the Republican side. And I think that we can also transpose some of those words. If I could change the minds of one half of a party or one half of a demographic or one half of an electorate, the same thing applies, because everybody who seeks to undermine everyday working people will always look to the differences. They will have you focusing on the differences versus the similarities in how we truly attain our freedom, our democracy, and that is a shame. But not we in this room, but we, the proverbial we, the general American public, fall for it and are seduced based on how it is brought to us. I will not be an apologist for hate. I will never be an apologist for hate. I'm so sorry. I don't give a damn. I will not do it. And I just want to make that clear. So, unions work for all people. This is really what I was supposed to be up here talking about. So, excuse me while I went on my tyrant. And united, workers set the standard of living higher for all workers in that industry. And so, this forces companies to compete on innovation and quality and safe instead of on depressing labor costs in the middle class. 50 years ago, CEOs earned about 20 times the median salary of the average worker. Today, CEOs can earn up to a year's salary of the average worker in a day's time. We are not talking about a wealth gap here. We're talking about something so much larger than that. And everyone is just set aside. Oh, yeah, okay. Not supporting organizations and people who actually support you. So the UAW members at Daimler Truck won a 25% increase in wages over their new 4-year deal. And this new contract was approved by a 94.5% yes vote. That's 7,300 hourly workers who have proven that the UAW is a union for all workers once again. And this tentative agreement averted a strike, and it covers 6 facilities in southern states. And those southern states include North Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee. The deal includes profit sharing and COLA for workers of Freightliner, Western Star trucks, and Thomas Built buses, as well as the end of 2-tier wages. And workers will get an immediate 10% raise, a 3% raise, another 3% raise in 6 months, and 12 months later, another 3% raise. Now, this winning contract for workers, in addition to the unionization vote by VW last month, might just be enough to turn the tide for the workers in at Mercedes-Benz in Vance, Alabama, who are trying to organize at this time. The workers there, they have a union vote starting on May 13th. The biggest complaints are stagnant wages, two-tier pay system, and it's about it covers about 5,000 workers. So I'm wishing them well, and I think that they have an extremely good chance. It's been a long battle, but I think that they finally have the formula correct. And I seriously plead with you all to support union workers. I do it every time I talk about the union, and I'm not going to stop. Unions are a symbol of democracy. We have seen unions fall to a low of 10% of the labor force in 2023. 10%. I don't understand it. I don't know how people think that they get what they get. Do you think you show up to your job and they said, yes, I'm going to give you health care because I like you so much? They do not give a damn. They do it because they don't have a period. And if they could get away with not giving it to you, they absolutely will support a union. Support your own freedom, your own voice, support democracy. I also wanted to just make a note that our illustrious Vice President Kamala Harris is in Detroit today to announce $100 million in grants that will support small and medium-sized auto parts manufacturers. And these grants will be used to convert the plants to producing parts for electric vehicles. So that's a big deal. This is not just for the big Ford Motor Companies and the Detroit threes of the world. These are for the smaller places that support the manufacturing industry, that still make a difference and that we couldn't survive without. And that if they went away, the entire manufacturing base of this country would feel it, and our economy would crumble in a very significant way. May not destroy it, but you damn well better believe that anything you see good, anything that you hold dear, would be significantly changed. I am disappointed in what I'm seeing today, and I will definitely get into that much later. But I think that we have to stop looking at what we don't agree with and focus on what we do agree with and get others to see the same, get them on our page, because I just don't understand how we as a people survive in this country if we're not united and we go the way of Hungary or other nations who have lost their democracy and our democracies, quote unquote, in name only. I just don't see it. And with that, I will land my plane. I'm so sorry for going on my tangent, but I am pretty heated today. And
Well, it's okay. I love the passion, and I think it's important for us to be passionate about our democracy and what we can do, and the danger when we see others doing things that we know are diametrically opposed, or that want to destroy our democracy. And so it is very infuriating to see people who we know better, as in the case that 2K alluded to before. And I'm going to go back to her. But that to me, we want to be calling balls and strikes, giving, fails and passes to good journalism and pointing out bad. And one that did a really great job of calling a thing was Lawrence O'Donnell. He never disappoints. And I love that in the middle of all of that media frenzy around Hope Hicks's, white woman tears, that Lawrence called a thing a thing. Like, okay, you're crying now, but we're dealing with this because of people like you, the enablers. Okay. And we have these, kind of reform tours that are allowed to go on periodically. They're brought before the media either because of a book or an event like the trial is happening. Not long ago, the dude with the mustache, Bolton, he was trotted out in some places in much the same way. And while he was pointing out all of the dangers of the former administration, the former guy, and their bad strategy, at the end of the day, he said he was voting for him. Okay. You're not a friend of democracy. And for journalists to platform him and not point that out. I do recall at the time, I think that it was Nicole Wallace who, I think he was on several shows, but I think that she did a pretty decent job, if I recall, of pointing out some of those things. But we need our journalists to be brave and courageous so that they can continue to be free. And journalists are very, very much a part of our democracy, and they are a necessity because when you don't have free and good journalism to inform the masses, then you leave a vacuum for the propaganda to fill that void. And I think that that has happened to a large degree, which is why, I mean, Putin, not Putin, but Hitler had his, what was his Goebbels, but, and he just had the printing press, which was kind of new for them at that time. They found a way to do it. And people who seek to do evil seem to always find a way. And sometimes technology allows them to do it more easily. But we need to be aware of what is being done. And one of the things that is being done in the midst of all of these righteous protests, the anger, the things that are going on, there is a direct action of stoking being had by some to stoke culture wars, which what do? They divide us. And when we are divided, we are not strong. It's easy to take us down, so to speak. And rather than, we're out here, some of us screaming and yelling to be heard. But when you divide, what you're doing divides the democracy, then you also diminish your political power. And we talked about that in the case of unions and those things that Soul Sister is always speaking on. And those things, for those who do not want a democracy, are, something that they work to undermine. And we need to be aware that there is a grand plan without any of us sounding conspiratorial. I wish I were. But it's just the fact of the matter. I mean, we had the former guy give his Time interview. He laid it out there. So many of them in so many ways going wherever they have an opportunity, a mic or someone's willing to write about them, they are not being quiet about their intentions to change our form of government, a democracy. Some of them have even gone so far as to say it is not a democracy. It is a constitutional republic. Okay. And they want to change the meaning of things, to change our vocabulary, because now we used to kind of joke when they talked about woke and this, and we knew how stupid it is. However, that term has now taken root and hold. They can use it. They can use it as a verb, as a noun, to describe a whole host of things that they are against. And the people in their tribe, so to speak, know exactly what they mean, wokeism, the woke, and all of these things. And some of these college campus protests are being used as examples of wokeism, the bad stuff. people speaking out. And it's so funny because the folks at the Heritage Foundation, they were really talking about the violence and the behavior of all of these college students. However, when they speak about January 6th, oh, it was just just the regular tourist day and a few folks speaking out. So we have to be careful how they try, to um, move the goalpost when they're describing things, because they absolutely do, because the people in their ecosphere, their echo chambers, are getting the same thing over and over, and it's formulating a narrative. So I don't want to go on to too much more, but I can chime in a little bit later. 2K, I want to hear from you and get your thoughts on some of those things that we're dealing with in the realm of this culture war. The media passes and fails. Let us have it.
Well, first, I want to, and I agree with what Soul Sister said as well about focus on the positive. And I do, believe it or not, I'll try. In fact, you know what? I'll lead with this. Y'all, guess what? They just opened a Biden Harris office a few blocks from me. So guess where I'm headed? That's right. Let me work off to the extent that I get angry. Let me work it off there, because, and I say this all the time, and you talk about focusing on positive, we are going to win. That's all there is to it. In the interim, to deal with that, thank God I have all of you. What you said about and it breaks my heart. Now I'm sorry if I'm going negative, but I stitch things together. I saw it, as you were saying, Dee, too, the fact that the media will platform repeatedly things that just, because anything that you put on repeat can be detrimental, but platforming things like that gnome person, right? And I'm sure you have all heard by now what she had to say, how she extended her idea about how to cope with dogs to President Biden's dog. Okay, unnecessary. You can corral your insanity. Keep your insanity to yourself. That was unnecessary and just cruel. I'm tired. I'm really fed up to the teeth with the cruelty. And also, I'm sure you've all heard, there was some snippet from Fox News. Someone made fun of Paul Pelosi's hammer to the head. I really, here's where positive joins up with negative. I really try to, try to understand what is that phrase that people use? Who hurt you? What is the damage that causes someone to gravitate toward that kind of mentality and to showcase it with pride? And then I extend to the media, and I try to, back to your point, Dee, I try to uplift when I see something positive, to tweet about that as well. For example, Lawrence, a lot of us were all over him with, he really, really, Lawrence is a true ally. I think that Tamron Hall really put something on him, but that's an aside. In any case, he is a true
You and me
ally.
think alike.
Well, but he, to the good, because he has that platform. He is so sincere and succinct and can cut to the chase and have insight. That woman was crying because she had to get on the stand and betray her, fill in the blank with whatever, mentor. That's the word. I'll use that to be polite. That's why she was crying. Oh, emotional. She does not care about us. And I mean that with the capital letter. That was not her intent. That's not what was going on. And I'm hoping that, one thing about that train wreck, we get media to move on, but I try to encourage, I want to hear, there are so many stories that fall through the cracks. I apologize, I can't think of one right now, but there are so many stories that fall through the crack that I hear about here that media could be covering instead. And also, I'm very aware of who they platform. I haven't seen many I haven't seen in-depth treatment of the scope and depth of the situation that's caused people to protest. I have noted that the high-handedness of the young people, I'm sorry, this is just the way I see it, who refuse to explain or demonstrate any understanding of what they're protesting about, the perpetuation of using symbols that we, my African Americans have said are wrong, and it choosing to argue with us about that, that is something that I find, when I tell you, that's why I said with Near and Joseph sharing things, when people tell you what hurts them, when people tell you you're in violation of their history, their culture, their lived experience, you need to, in my opinion, you need to step back and be. And the other thing that I wanted to uplift too is the idea, be in a position of learning. How can we learn and change? And that's where I want, the only, I think I've hit on the news. I want to hear people's responses to the things that we witnessed going on this weekend. Those are the only things that I wanted to touch on. And I'm still upset about the David Plouffe thing. So anybody, I'm eager to engage in conversation. Thank you for letting me vent. I land my plane.
No problem. I appreciate it. Like I said, I just learned about it when you posted it this morning because I have really been trying to unplug as often as possible, yet stay informed because that is important. That is how we, one of the ways that we do battle because there is an information warfare being waged, and we are the good guys, and we need to stay on the battlefield. But sometimes when mud and crazy is just flying around, it's okay to just kind of duck out. You don't have to be in every fight. And some of the crazy that I saw was just beyond, the pale and not worthy of comment or consideration. But lost in all of that are absolutely some great stories, one of which didn't see get a lot of press, but I want to highlight that the Presidential Medal of Freedom was given out to some pretty stellar folks this past week. Two off the top of my head, of course, is our fabulous, forever best speaker in the universe, um, Emeritus Nancy Pelosi, and then another civil rights movement icon and warrior, James Clyburn. And he was so humble in his acceptance and speaking about it. And I think they are both deserving. And there were some other wonderful people as well. And one other thing that I feel like is part of this, the effects of this culture war that's being waged, that has been going on for some time, is, and it has not, this particular story has not gotten a lot of coverage, and that is the United Methodist Church, the split. The official United Methodist decided that they would do away with their rules that forbid gay marriages, and I think leaders, clergy. And so I knew that this was something that was going on because the Southern Baptist Convention kind of had this split about a year and a half ago, and there was, some coverage around it. And I happen to belong to the United Methodist Church, so I had to vote on it. And sadly, and this is the nuance within our community. My church voted to leave, and it is around the LGBTQ issues and rights, and it breaks my heart. But this is like within it cuts across so many communities and segments of our society. So if anyone wants to speak to that, I'd love to hear from you on that. But Joseph has his hand up, and I am finding some resources that I use to kind of help get me prepared for today's agenda and conversation. So Joseph, I'm going to go to you, and I am going to try to find some of these resources that I use to share with you guys. Oh, and I did add some more free articles to the Google spreadsheet that I have for us. And so I will repost it. If you already have the link, then you will see the updates. But I know I've added at least 10 more, and I'm trying to keep those links and resources active for you guys. So Joseph, and then it looks like Jima Riri has come up. So we'll go to her next.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to build on the few things that you and 2K had talked about. Telling about these culture wars that some stoke. Well, just as a reminder, next month is Pride Month, and the bigots are already getting into their feelings about that. And there is going to be, as usual, but I fear even more this year, a lot of hate directed towards the IT community. And they want to, as usual, stoke fear about it. And they just they don't even know why, which is typical for any bigot. They don't know why they just do. And my whole thing is that they just need to leave us alone. We're just trying to. So that's just one example of how they stoke these culture war. Another thing about the press, Ms. D, kind of to build on something that I mentioned last week when I was on vacation, how the KTVN, the CBS station in Reno, how it posted this what I call rather bogus story about some apparent poll that saying that there was very low enthusiasm for President Biden among Democrats. Well, then later in the week they go and give rather favorable Sam Brown, a lot of people are saying is going to be Jackie Rose's opponent, giving him very favorable press when in reality he is a very dangerous MAGA. And I can tell he is going to be running on a platform of white grievance. He just reminds me of the typical angry white man. And he's going to try to exploit that if ends up running directly against Jackie Rosen. And yet this station had no trouble giving him favorable press. And so that just kind of shows you what we are up against. And so that's why I think it's really incumbent on all of us. And I know so many people in this room do a great job of it, of just amplifying all the positives, whether it be about the president or the vice president or any of our preferred Democratic candidates, that we just need to do what the media is not doing. So that's all I wanted to say about that. I'll land my plane there because I know she wants to speak. I want to eager to hear what she has to say. So thank you about that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And thanks for reminding us. And this is what is happening throughout the country. And this is why good journalism is important and that it was put in our U.S. Constitution for a reason. And why across the globe, those that do not want a healthy, thriving democracy are quick to target journalists and the media or take control or combination of them when they are taking over or ruling a country. And we can look at Putin and Orban and many others. They will squash any dissenting ideas. And I find it ironic that some of these people who are protesting or, spouting their ideology and their beliefs here in real life on social media, and they're just kind of like, well, democracy hasn't been so great, and I don't care what happens. Just they not realizing their very ability to hold that position is uniquely democratic. How people forget that when Russia invaded Ukraine, it was a war that they started, that the people in Russia could not utter that word. They could not use that word to describe it because it was, at first a denazification, mission. And, it went through several iterations, but from the very start, it was a war. They invaded that country because it was a democratic country sitting next to them. And it was also being considered to be part of the UN. But yeah, so people need to kind of pay attention. And I feel like sometimes we get too invested in our tribal beliefs and the comfortable space that we hold with people who think like us and agree with us, that we close out any other information, and it can be very, very detrimental. And it is also a way in which the folks who are able to wield the powers of propaganda are able to do it so well, and they are using these tools. So Jima Riri, I'm going to go to you, and we'll just continue our conversation.
Hello, Misty. Hello, Soul Sister. Thank you for the space. Thank you, Joseph. You're too kind. Near, I want you to know that I absolutely love you. I love your heart. I love your soul. I love spirit, and I love your energy. And I want you to pass that along to your father, whom I truly respect, and I can't even begin to imagine what he went through. But I want you to know that you are a rare gem of a human being. We don't find many nears in this world, and if I could clone you, I absolutely would. I'm just so I'm just so I feel so much pain and empathy for you right now, and I've been so depressed and so into my own mind that hearing you today helped me to feel grateful and help pull me out of that. So I want to thank you for that. I want to talk a little bit about Christy Nome. Christy Nome represents my white woman majority. What kind of evil, vile would take pleasure out of sharing how you shot a puppy? There's that Caesar guy, the dog whisperer. There's many people who would have taken that puppy, but this is who she is. This is who the white GOP women are. And if you're not sickened by that, then you're just as vile as her. And that's my message to the majority of these white women voters that are my age, because you know better. And I hope and pray that your daughters know better and that your granddaughters know better, and that they show up and they vote Democratic and they vote for their rights, their freedoms, and their liberty. Literally, the GOP has absolutely taken off the hoods and the sheets. They are literally telling you what they're going to do. They literally have put out Project 2025. You've got that PO 1135809 is what I call him, that former guy, literally letting the cat out of the bag while talking about it. He's let's not forget, this goes back, my white women, 2015. Let's talk about the things about punishing women. Let's talk about how lied about his affairs, and these women are all lied. This man is a con artist, grifter. We all know this. He is a racist, vile, misogynistic, and he wants to be authoritarian king like Vladimir Putin. The man has only praised authoritarian leaders. The GOP has backed all of this garbage and trash, all in desperation to keep power in the white man's hand. And that's what it really, and we all know this. And every white person I know and I see, I spread this same mess. If you don't know better by now, you are just vile. What happened to humanity? If your pastor at your church is telling you to hate people and to send people away, you better get a church, because that has nothing to do with Jesus or God or the Bible. It's just so apparent now. Again, we know exactly what they're doing. And to think, that Christy Nome, don't think that when you don't do what they want, they won't come for you. Look at how they came for Liz Cheney. They'll just look at the one who let the story out. I can't even remember her name. Meadows girl, his staff girl who testified. They're coming for her. It's just the stupidity of women, of white women let me tell you, white pity of white women has kept holding everybody back. And I really hope that they get it. And if don't, then I got to move on to the youngsters that do. I'm going to find the ones that if I can get 2 or 3 people to go and change their mind, then I'm doing something to help. But as a white woman, I have to correct my white women. And I have to have, we are beyond, oh, it's uncomfortable. Everything's uncomfortable. So let's just have those conversations. And actually, they should be pretty scared. And I'm hoping that the young vote is going to show out again and help save us. And I do think, and a lot has not been talked about with our VP Kamala Harris. She has literally gone out to all of these colleges all over to get people excited and to get them voting, to tell us about what they're doing with women's reproductive health. We have many young men who are supporting women's choice and their rights too.
I'm so sorry. That was me. I was trying to bring up, I saw Near and I was trying to bring him up and I hit the mute. I'm so sorry, G. Marie.
Go ahead and continue. You'll have to hit your unmute.
I'm sorry.
All
Thank
right.
you. We haven't spoken enough about how much work he has done to help with bringing out the vote. And so, like Kay said, I have to start looking at the positive, and I cannot tell you how much this space has helped me to get out of my head and to get back to work. So I want to thank you all very much.
Well, thank you for that, and I appreciate it. And it's good to hear that the conversations that we have here do help to uplift, to motivate, and to affirm things for us. And I'm so jealous of 2K having that office in her neighborhood because I absolutely would be hanging out there all the time.
Same.
That is such a blessing, and you will definitely have to, kind of keep us updated on your, your involvement, your activities around that.
I just hope they don't kick me out because I tend to be enthusiastic.
So it's like this lady is just a little too happy. No, I think that um, during this time we're 6 months in, so I think that they could use some cheerleaders and really happy, the real joyful warriors. Not those nasty ones that came out, trying to, you know, destroy our kids and the education system because
The literal nasty ones.
yes, yes. But I feel like and thank you, Jima Riri, for pointing out all of the travels and the work that our fabulous vice president is doing. I thought it was interesting that someone made a comment about how impressed they were about a visit she had made to Atlanta. And mind you, I think that was probably like the fourth visit. And, it's not the only place. I'm so grateful that we have here within our community people who basically dedicate their timeline to amplifying her. And it is important because this, again, is where the media falls down because they're so busy chasing all of the shiny objects and President Biden and VP Harris they've just rolled up their sleeves and are doing the work and they continue. Like, even though they are actually, on the campaign trail, they are still getting things done. I do want to ask someone because this is something that's a little controversial. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but just curious. I did see a post about the speaker, I think Marjorie is going to try to oust him. And, she's made no bones about that. But I also find it interesting that, he did move the legislative bill forward for funding Ukraine, but they have invited Bibi to Congress, and they are asking for Schumer to. And I've only seen it on the timeline, and I tend not to, just take what I see on the timeline at face value. I like to get multiple resources, but they seem to be good resources. And I just, I don't know how I feel about that. Well, no, I do know how I feel about that. I don't feel good about it. I don't think that is a good move. I remember when he was invited to Congress before. It was when President Obama was in office, and he was very disrespectful. And we already have, like, we cannot control their army, yet they are trying to tie our president and Congress to the things that he is doing. So I don't think that bringing him here helps to establish that distinction, and I don't like it. So, Near, what say you?
Okay, so I agree with you, not 100%, million percent. Right now, we cannot support Benjamin Netanyahu. He's not any different than Trump. He's not any different than Putin. He's all bad news. So this is just the way it is. And we need to remember that, yes, we had a great relationship for almost 80, 76 years with Israel and America. But we cannot afford right now, as Democrats in the United States, to support an asshole. I'm sorry that I use this word, but this guy is bad news. He's a liar. If nothing we can trust about him, he's saying English different to the American people, and he tell us something totally different than what he's telling the American in the media. He is bad news for the world, and I will tell you why. Because he is here to protect his own ass from the court that he have to face. So he's gonna do whatever to destroy. He doesn't care if we're all gonna be dead, as long as he doesn't have to go to court. In America, and I'm so glad that Biden, by the way, I don't know if you know, but Biden holded for a week, a little over a week, some of the supplies to Israel. Good for Biden. We cannot, this is what people need to realize. We as Israeli do not support, most of us do not support our government. We have a horrible government, and this is exactly what we need to look at. We cannot afford United States of America to become another Israel. Because what's happening in Israel, slowly, we lost our democracy, and now we're actually feeling it. If it's the LGBT, if it's the woman, they are just doing exactly against everything that we believe. And guess what? They don't even care about us. So no, Benjamin Netanyahu should not come to Washington. He shouldn't even come to America. I cannot believe his son is living in Miami, and we're paying for him to be in this. This is absolutely crazy. I hope Congress will not invite. I mean, if it was up to me, I would not support 1% of these things.
Well, that makes me feel good about my feelings about it, Near, because I mean, he is the prime minister in your country, but I just don't think it is a good move, particularly at this time. In fact, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like the thing going on too with Johnson being perhaps ousted and the Democrats having to save him. I don't like that either, but I know that before, when we were put in this situation, with McCarthy, we got him, and he is definitely all in with the insurrection gang. In fact, he wrote some, pretty powerful language in support of it and directives for it. So, while I feel like bad politicians and leaders can do good things, I am glad that he got the funding for Ukraine passed through, because they absolutely need it. Their democracy depends on it, as well as ours. I feel like this is kind of a tricky move. I don't know. I would say I feel like it's a setup. Like there is no way, I think, that Democrats, like what does him coming here, what purpose does it serve? He is not listening to us while he is there in his own country directing things. And I don't know that bringing him here would change that, except for, as I said, make it appear as though America was condoning his behavior. And our State Department and our president has absolutely said that they did not. So, anyway. Um,
I just want to add one thing about it. Just so you guys know, the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu, I think it was today, I'm not today, yesterday, he announced that he doesn't really care about what America think. So if he doesn't care about what America think and he's going to do what he wants to do, then we as an American Democrats needs to take a look and say, okay, what do we do now? And right now, we have one thing that we need to stick together. It's our election, our democracy. We cannot afford to go any left, any right. We need to be center and focus on one thing. It's a democracy. And Benjamin Netanyahu, all what he's trying to do is destroy our democracy by having his friend that is not even his friend, Mr. Orange, come to be the president. We cannot let Benjamin Netanyahu have a voice in America. We need to be against him and his government because they are bad. And I'm saying it again and again. And I want you to listen to me, you guys. The minute we are going to lose democracy, we are losing everything. So everything right now needs to put aside, and all what we need to focus on one thing: Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and that's it. Nothing else matters for the next 6 months. Thank you.
oh, thank you, Neer. And I,
I want to chime in on that.
okay, and then we'll go to Jan.
I just want to say that I don't trust it because of the fact that it's Johnson who is really the one that's trying to do the invite. So, what is his motive? What is the underlying goal here? To me, it doesn't. I don't feel that it's on the up and up. And secondly, there is so much dissension, not only in the country, but also right within Congress. There are some very loud voices, one of them from my state, who would absolutely have a field day with dragging this administration through the mud if that visit were to occur. So I hope and pray that it does not, because I do not see that turning out well for us at all. I mean, think of where we are right now anyway. Right now, our Congress is in a position where we're having to save an actual election denier. Not only was he an election denier, but he helped write some of the reasons why and strategy of how to go about arranging this coup that almost occurred in January on January 6th, okay? 2021. I'm not going to pretend like I forgot that. He is not going to be some kind of hero because he has pushed forward some legislation that has been beneficial to the American people. That is his job. And I am so tired of us always having to give so much credit to people doing the right thing because it's A, their job, and B, it's the right thing. I am tired of it. It's like hero worship. And this would not turn out well for anyone on our side of the aisle at all if that visit were to occur. So we know how people love to go back and listen to this space. I hope that the powers that be are going back and listening to this space when we say what we say in here and we mean what we say. And I appreciate all of your words, Nir, especially with you being there and knowing, realize what is actually happening and giving us that experience through your word. And then also us, just chiming in to support that. I just really have to say that would not be okay with me either. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. I'm going to go next to Jan. And then I'd like to introduce someone who has listened to our space and joined us on many occasions, but just been in the gallery. And today I'm so glad that he's come up to join us because he is someone that I would like for us to get to know and to try to support because he is running for office in my old hometown, my old home county. So, Jan, we're going to hear from you, and then I'd like to introduce Walter.
Thank you very much, Dee. Hi, Soul Sister, and Near, and all the rest of you. So, sister, you pretty much said what I was going to say is that I do not trust Johnson. He was in on the coup. He helped write the coup. He helped implement the coup, and he's not to be trusted. Now, if we are getting something, the Democrats are getting something else out of it, then I understand why they're going to do what they're going to do. And it's, to not let it go forward. But I'm hoping that if that does happen, that we're getting something out of it. Now, we all know that Biden did hold up aid, as Near was talking about, uh, because of what was happening in Gaza. And we know that today that they spoke for a long time, Netanyahu and Biden. So I'm not really sure what transpired during that. I have the TV down, and I know that they were talking just a few minutes ago, and I missed it. But John, the spokesperson for the military, was just speaking, John Kirby, and I missed what he was saying. But what I did want to say is go ahead and go and say to Near how much I appreciate him keeping us up to date and him bringing the facts when other people in other spaces may not appreciate some of the things that he says. But you know what? He's there and he sees what's on the ground. And anybody that criticizes him better be ready to criticize me. Is all I can say. Is I have his back, and I appreciate the space, and it gives me hope and it makes me feel good to be here and to hear other people. And absolutely right, we're here for democracy. That is number one. That's number one, what we need to be here for. And without that, we have nothing. So thank you very much, Soul Sister and Dee.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, your sentiment, exactly. And I'm glad I was able to just kind of get a read from other people. And I think that you guys feel pretty much the same way that I do about it. I'm going to go to Kay. I'd love to hear her thoughts. And then I want to introduce Walter and give you guys an opportunity to learn a little bit more about him. So, TK, how are you feeling about this?
Well, I just wonder. I guess we have seen Putin and Trump together, but I was wondering, have we seen Putin, Trump, and Bibi? They're the same people. They're cut from the same cloth, and he does not need to be here. Bibi does not. But what I wanted to ask is, and near, especially, there's talk of a ceasefire of Hamas having accepted a ceasefire that's running up and so I was just wondering if anyone has any more word about that. And I apologize, my mind flipped up who just mentioned that Biden and Netanyahu had been speaking for a while. But I just
That
wonder
was
if anyone has
Jan.
any more.
Yeah.
Dan, thank you.
hmm
Any more news about this alleged agreement on a ceasefire? Thank you.
Okay, well, Near has come back up because it keeps going back and forth, and my gut is that, unless BB is willing to do something like that, which he just doesn't seem to be willing to. So I'll let him answer because he is there, and the last thing I saw on it, they were issuing warnings for residents of
Rafa?
Rafa. Yeah,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Well, I mean, look on the timeline. There are a lot of. They're
Well, it's
showing
not.
Gaza
I'm
is
so, yeah.
celebrating.
What's
Sorry.
happened? I'm sorry. I have to tell you what's happened. So this is the truth. So today, what's happened? Benjamin Netanyahu and a lot of people, they're blaming IDF, IDF. But you have to understand, just like any army follow the government. So the government, Benjamin Netanyahu and his government, today was bombing some in Rafiah. Now later on. Hamas leadership, agreed to the agreement with Egypt and United States, and now we're waiting for Benjamin Netanyahu to make his decision. I hate to disappoint you guys, but this is only my opinion, so don't take it as a thing. But I will tell you, Benjamin Netanyahu will go into Rafiah just to please his voters. Is cold. This is how sick this person is. This person will sabotage our hostages to bring them back home, just so he can keep his is called BB called and those fanatic right wing fanatic horrible people that are took over our government. So I'm telling what's happened today. One good news that happened that when we find out that they did what they did in Rafiah, we went in Tel Aviv. We went to all the buildings and thousands and hundreds and thousands flyers against Benjamin Netanyahu. And most of you know that we are every single day. Thousands and thousands of people are on the street in every corner, in every city. We are going to do whatever it takes to pull this government down before we will have a World War III. He is going to start a war. He doesn't care. This why what's happened today. I don't know because I want to hear what's going to happen. I will find out in about an hour. But I know that as far as right now, we did go to Rafiah. We lost. You see, this is what's so sick about this man. Not like we are destroying the Gaza and the Palestinian innocent people. Now, I'm not talking about Hamas. I'm separate, just like I'm separate the government from the Israeli people. We do not support, and the government does not represent 80-90% of the Israeli people. Just like Hamas does not represent 80 and 90% of the Palestinian people. And this is what we need to understand. Don't put us together. Israeli government have nothing to do with me and 90% of the people, just like Hamas. If you ask my friend, my Palestinian friend, not just in Gaza, even in the West Bank, they do not support Hamas. So we need to be very careful because Hamas and Benjamin Netanyahu both needs to get out of our life, and we need to have new leadership that think about peace, about talking, not about killing people. Thanks.
Yes, I understand the distinction too between Hamas and Bibi, definitely. So I just wondered because the timeline was giving me hope, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you. It's a good question. We keep looking at it, but neither of them seem to be, they kind of give us a little bit of hope and then they retreat right back to their stance because at the end of the day, I think both of them pretty much feel that the only acceptable goal is for them to win and to have total control, and that just can't be when you have two different factions of people and this landmass. So it's not, you know, it's not sustainable this way. So, with that being said, I want to thank Walter Chandler for joining us today. He is running for the Senate seat in Tennessee, District 18. This is my old hometown district. And he is running against a Republican who, like all of the other extreme Tennessee Republicans we have, do not mean good for our democracy here in the state, which we already see eroding away. But Walter, I want people to hear from you. I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and tell folks a little bit about you, and included in that, if you could just tell us why you decided to run.
Oh man. Oh, D, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate on stage. Hi D. Hi Soul Sister. Hi Janice. Appreciate you. And G-Mon. Today, Jaquay. Appreciate you. And Miss Sampson as well too. I appreciate all the listeners down today. Yes, my name is Walter Chandler. I am running for Tennessee Senate District number 18, which represents Collar County. If you think about, talk about states in the county level, Davidson County is Nashville. So all of Nashville, the whole boundary is one county, and that county is Davidson. I am in a county just to the northern side of it, northeast side of it. So I'm a border county to the major city of Nashville. Just kind of give you an idea of where my district is located within the state. That said, myself, man, it's interesting. I've been all over the place, literally. My family's from here, and I can get back to that in a second. I'm gonna put a pin in that. But my family has roots here in Tennessee. But I was born and raised outside of Chicago, in a town called Joliet, Illinois. And a couple of hot things about that, if you're of a certain age, you know about the Blues Brothers. One of the Blues Brothers' name is Joliet Jake. They start off the scene right there in front of Joliet Prison. Not to eliminate associate Joliet with prisons, but that's one aspect of it. But also, just understand Joliet has a lot of history there. Matter of fact, the representative right now, Lauren Underwood, she's been in the timeline a lot this last week. She just had an immigration ceremony, naturalized new citizens at the Joliet Rialto. I graduated high school in that building, so I know that place very well. But that being said, I've lived all over the country as a result, moving out of Chicagoland area right after high school. Went to school in Florida, went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. It's an engineering school, aviation school in Daytona Beach, Florida, and got my degree in aerospace engineering. Because growing up, I wanted to be an astronaut. Now, once I got into school, I realized, you know what? I don't really want to be an astronaut so much as doing experiments and stuff, but I do want to be a space tourist. And I was like, you know what? Based on trajectory where we're at, I could probably get there by the time like my 50s or 60s, be able to go to space, commercially. And what do you know? I might be within about 5 to 7 years within that estimation. But from school, graduating with a degree in aerospace engineering, concentration in astronautics, moved down to South Florida working for a company, Belcan, doing engineering, working on jet engines, military engines. Then from there, went to Boeing, was out at Boeing in multiple parts of the country, from Seattle to Alabama to Kansas, working on different commercial aircraft out at Boeing. And then went to Connecticut working for another company, then moved back home to Tennessee here recently because of family. My parents, they moved back here after I graduated high school, back to Tennessee. And then my mom ended up becoming sick in her later years, last few years, though still young, and she ended up coming down with dementia. And went through that process, that last leg of season of life with my mom. And being here, realized, I'm here now. I came here as a child. I come back as a man, married with 2 boys. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be here for a minute. I've already been here for a minute. And now that I'm here and I realize opportunity is here just to really make headway here in Tennessee. Because Tennessee, you talk to anybody on the ground will tell you the state is not as red as it appears on paper. We just have the lowest voter participation in the country, 31%. We're 51. Like DC votes at a higher population than we do, percentage than we do here in Tennessee. So there's a lot of opportunities there for growth within the state, but it also shows why we have such a gerrymandered state. And opportunity is right now to help undo some of that. Starting in my county, going up to our biggest race we have this year is for U.S. Senate with Gloria Johnson running, and she was part of the Tennessee Three. And with the school covenant shooting, and then the 2 brothers, 2 Justins getting kicked out of Congress just for standing up for that. And she was the one that was spared, and now she is running for U.S. Senate against Marsha Blackburn. And we all can contribute to that. And this is me doing my part. Not only because I want to contribute to trying to help Gloria Johnson become a U.S. Senator, but I want to get Farrell Hale out the seat. Because this man up here, I've talked to him personally. He believes that kids at 3 and 4 years old only need 9 weeks of summer school. They don't need 9 months of school, which is why my county does not have pre-K 3, pre-K 4. But the neighboring county right there in Nashville, they do. So you're already giving the kids there, your neighboring city that you're competing with when it comes to educational dollars, a 2-year advance head start on what we should already be doing in our county anyway. Oh, the same county you like to brag about the fact we have a magnet school here that's number 2 ranked school in the state. I'm like, really? So we have number 2 school magnet school in the state, but yet you have kids starting behind the curve. Oh, and they have to test into that magnet school too. You don't just get to you're not zoned into the school. So, and you're trying to push for privatization with school vouchers. Nah, man, I can't deal with that. No. And I have 2 children who are on the spectrum, my boys. So therefore, they need ABA therapy. They need additional services. That cuts out a lot of private schools as far as access to schools if I want to send them to private schools. So education is what brought me into that. And personal experience of this, and moving from blue state Connecticut, where at 3 and 4 years old, they're already teaching the kids Mandarin Chinese, Spanish in the public school, to coming down here to Tennessee, and you're like, no, they just need 9 weeks of summer school between kindergarten and 1st grade and 1st and 2nd grade, and they'll be fine at 3rd grade level by the time they reach their peers. Nah, We got to change that. That's his policy. That's what he pushes for. You have nothing. This is also a senator that says if you're coming, if I go ask him for help, what are you trying to do for our constituents in our district? His response is, I'm not here to do what the district's want. I'm here to do what's best for the state of Tennessee. That pissed off people so much. Actually, Lexi Middleton, one of the state reps within my district, that inspired her to run just from that conversation that she had with our state senator. Our state's trying to just passed recently, a couple of weeks ago, passed a bill allowing teachers to arm themselves to have concealed weapons on campuses now. Guns to the teachers. Now, fortunately, at our county level, they've instituted a policy. They're not going to sign off on that, so therefore, it's not going to happen. But not all counties did. I talked to people when I was out in my county seats, City Fest, and there's some people saying, yeah, they're over in neighboring counties that just say, hey, some of the teachers actually want it, but they're, we're talking like 1%, actually less than that. We're talking like one out of like probably like 1,000, because most teachers don't want it, vehemently don't want it. So you have a guy who's running my opponent who wants to arm teachers. He wants to, very conservative of him, say teach kids gun safety classes, but parents don't need to know about it, nor do they have the ability to opt out of the class if they so want to. Say,
Oh, check your mic, Walter. We just lost you. I don't know if you're in an area where your coverage dropped. Sounds like he may have hit a dead zone. Well, Walter, you come back in when your mic.
over here,
Okay.
out here going to do some afternoon running around. But that said, it's just when I listen to his policies and I look at his voting record, it's just ridiculous. Of course, he's against all the major issues that we're for, and against the people for gun reform, sensible gun reforms like background checks. Of course, everybody's cool with that. I say I want safety storage. I want that stronger, strengthen that. People agree with that. He's voted against it. His voting record is a lot to deal with, and even the Republicans here in Tennessee, you find out that hey, they're not as far right as the caricatures. There are a lot of the caricatures here now. Don't get that twisted. Don't get that twisted. There are plenty of those here. They call them constitutional Republicans over here. Those are the MAGA. But between MAGA and the middle, and then the other side, the left, even the far left, there's still some workable spots that you can do that here. And it requires talking to, and you realize because there's so few voter participation, so you can actually find a lot more agreements with people and update the data. Nobody has accurate data right now. Matter of fact, I had a fundraiser last week trying to give me VAN access. VAN is Voter Access Network, which allows us as Democrats to see where the voters are, who is going to vote, who are super voters, who are the ones who vote occasionally. Understand that way I can start targeting my audience there to build my voter network and knowing where my votes are. Otherwise, you're just flying blind to a campaign, and that's like campaigning 101 right there. And speaking of which, too, do you mind if I throw on my jumbotron, my
No,
Acme, and
absolutely.
my
No,
website?
absolutely. I was going to ask you to do that and put it down in the purple pill
I
as
appreciate it.
well, because while you're doing that, I want to address something that you said, because I don't know if people fully kind of understood the point that you were making when you talked about us having a very important Senate seat race, in that of Gloria Johnson against Marsha Blackburn, and that you're running in a county for a state Senate seat. And another friend that I have mentioned in here, Brian, is running for the state representative seat, both of you from my home county. And folks know that I am part of Blue Tennessee, and it is what we encourage people to do, to run everywhere. Because what happens is, Walter also talked about the gerrymandering that's done here, the low voter turnout, which a lot of is due to active voter suppression methods. So we have a lot of factors against us. But one of the things that help people when at the top of the tickets, like those federal level seats and things, is to ensure that we have people running everywhere at these local levels, at the state level, and at the county commission and school board level, because it increases voter turnout. And when voter turnout is increased, it increases the votes for those at the top of the ticket. So we don't always focus on just we, of course, we run to win. But winning has a lot of, I mean, even when we don't win, there are a lot of benefits, and it is important. And I want to applaud you, Walter, for being courageous enough to get in this fight to move the needle, because your race helps to continue moving the needle. So I just want to thank you again for your courage and for your understanding of what's at stake. You know, I love to have someone else here in the space who can talk about it. They've heard me talk about it ad nauseum since I've been having spaces.
Now, don't get it twisted. Now, I'm not up here trying to just be, an afterthought. No, I'm running to win the
Exactly.
seat, and I believe I can win it. No, this is I'm just saying extra incentive to help, but I'm here to win. I believe this man can be beaten, and he can because I've been talking to people, and people don't like
And
him.
that's it.
They really don't like him.
Exactly. And this is also, and I appreciate you, making that clear, because I absolutely, I mean, people, you should be running to win. And it is more difficult for people to win in states like ours, where they have gerrymandered so. And I love what you said about how you made those distinctions, like all of the caricatures that we see of the Republicans in the state house does not represent all Republicans in our state, and that it is not as red or as MAGA as the state house would make it appear to be. And I've told this story before. I used to work for the mayor of our city, who was a Republican, who had been a state senator. And I met a lot of those people. I met Marsha Blackburn before she became even a state senator. And so, even she then was not that crazy. But we have arrived at a place in our politics that people who may have once seemed reasonable, who wanted to be true representatives for their constituents, have decided, for the sake of their party, that they're willing to embrace the extremes, and they are okay with that. And I know that in the city that I grew up in, there is a lot of fallout from some of their extremism. And the constitutional Republicans, you mentioned that. I've talked about them because they robbed my cousin of the county commission seat. And that was the first time when I was listening to all of the hearings that they were having around what should have been.
Yes, that was your
Yes,
cousin.
yes,
Oh, one vote. It was by one vote,
exactly.
people. That was
and
literally
and
one
they
vote.
denied her a rightful runoff that would not have
Yes,
cost a
exactly.
cent, would not have cost a cent.
Nope.
And that was when I first heard that
Nope.
terminology. We're not a democracy. Okay, we're a country of rules and laws. Okay, so why not breaking the rules? And this is how extremism. Everyone who has kind of been listening to me in my spaces, they met Brenda. She used to come and talk a lot of times. We talked in the space about it. One of the first reporters to report on it was Blaze Gainey with WPLN. He would come and listen into the space. So they're very familiar with it. And we're real salty about it because she got out there and she talked to people, and she would tell me some of these people that we knew were Republicans, that they were on her side. They did not like the crazy. So are you telling me that you're talking to some of these same people who don't like the crazy?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And matter of fact, I had you a little story about that.
Yes,
Man,
please.
to the
Yes.
point. So I was at our town the City Fest a couple of weeks ago, and while I was there, I'm staying at the tent, and taller gentleman comes over, and we're talking, and it immediately lets me know, he's like, listen, and I'm standing in front of my county's Democratic tent, so I'm not hiding, or trying to be incognito or anything, incognito or anything like that. and talked to the man. He's like, I'm conservative, so I agree with the conservative policies because I'm trying to tell him how crazy the conservatives are here in the state. And he says, I'm like that. I'm like, all right. So we get to talk and I'm like, so where are you from? He's like, oh, I'm from Maryland. I'm like, really interesting. Okay. And I'm like, so what brought you here? Especially this part of the wife's from here. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah, my family, their roots go back to the Fairview Plantation. Fairview Plantation is one of the bigger and
Walter, you're cutting out. Check your mic again. It's one of the historic slaveholding plantations in the state, like one of the largest. Are you back? Okay. All
sorry.
right. Go ahead. We can hear you now.
Yes. So yeah, slave. Yeah. So the Fairview is a slave plantation in Tennessee. Was a slave plantation here in Tennessee, and so I'm talking to the guy. I'm telling him about the Isaac Franklin, the owner of that plantation, who also owned the Angola plantation, which most people now know it as the Angola Penitentiary in Louisiana, state penitentiary. So the owner of that was based here in my county. Turns out his wife was not just a regular slave trader herself either. She also had the commissioning and building of the Belmont Mansion, which now sits in the center of Belmont University, a liberal arts college here in Nashville, Tennessee, as well too. Excuse me, liberal arts university here in Nashville, Tennessee, as well too. So that plantation with that type of roots, as the family comes on my maternal side of my family, my maternal grandfather, who I'm named after, Walt. He comes from that plant. His family comes from that plantation. So when I told this man the story and explained to him my history and how deep my roots come here, even though I've moved all over the country, he said, that's amazing. You know your history like that. And he said, you know what? What's your name again? I was like, Walter Chandler. He's like, all right, Walter, I'm gonna look out for you. And he pulled out his phone because all I had at the time was my QR code. I didn't have any, push cards or business cards yet to distribute to anybody. All that was my website available. He pulled out his phone, took a picture of my website because the QR code. He's like, all right, I'm gonna send you something. But good luck to you, when you're raised. Now, that was again, I'm in a very red county. This guy's telling me he's conservative. He votes with them. He agrees with them most of their issues. But by the end of the conversation, he was telling me he's gonna donate to my campaign, and he appreciated the fact, my knowledge of history, not only my own family history, but history of the area. Especially for somebody like himself, boom, who was moving out, who had just moved here recently within the last couple of years. And I said, it's crazy what happened to the Key Bridge up there in Baltimore. And he's like, yeah, my brother works at the port out there in Baltimore. I was like, interesting. Like, dude, that's fascinating, that thing. He's like, yeah. So he's like, well, yo, have a good one and y'all keep it moving. And the conversations like that was not a one-off. It was repetitive. It kept happening. I talked to people, different conversations, different topics, but it came to a point I could find a point of relation to people. And that's why that right there, the ability of networking with people and relating to people and coming to find out that my county is rural as I thought it was going to be, and thought I was going to be looked at of like old time term of a carpetbagger saying, "Oh, you from up? You a Yankee? You ain't from around here." I'm like, nah, my roots come right through here, come right through the plantations here, and if not, Fairview at the Craig Farm. That backs people off. And then come to find out, everybody that's here that I was running into, I would say 80% of them are transplants themselves, coming from New York, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Florida,
Mm-hmm.
California,
Some of those
Wisconsin.
voices
Met
that
all
I
those people.
heard in that meeting where they were denying my cousin the runoff, one of the constituents that was allowed to speak was a transplant from California. I'm talking about these people. These people. I'm like, lady, you don't belong here. Like you came here. And I appreciate that bit of history. I am very well versed in our county's history. I used to serve on the museum board there, and also know a lot of my family roots, and there are ties to the Fairview plantation. My grandfather was a sharecropper, and Mrs. Weems, the one of the last surviving monarchs of that family, was the owner of one of the farms that he was a sharecropper for. So
Mm.
I understand and I appreciate you, being able to show that your roots run deep and that your history, and that you have a command of the issues that the citizens of Sumner County are concerned with, because they should be, because the things that these constitutional Republicans are trying to do is not very democratic, and the places that they are trying to take us is definitely a place that will cost us freedoms. And I was glad to see, I still don't have the full list of a lot of the counties. I'm glad Sumner County is one of them, um, giving
Mhm.
pushback to this arming of teachers, because that is a disaster waiting to happen. We already have a lot of gun violence here because of the gun manufacturers. Now, let me talk about that, because Beretta is situated
Okay.
there. I had my spouse used to work there when it was a brake manufacturer for Bosch, and so that is where the governor signed into law in 2021, I think it was, the permitless carry that really opened the floodgates to, like, everybody, let's just like let everybody carry a gun. And he signed that law into place there at Beretta. So a lot of that, the gun lobbyists are driving some of this horrendous gun legislation. What are people in the community saying about that? I know that the county has taken an official stand, but when you talk to people, what are their feelings? What are you hearing?
I would say 90% were against arming the teachers, but you still would run into like one say, okay, or even if they weren't against it, they knew somebody who was for it. So maybe not like 95% are against it. As far as gun access altogether, I mean, yeah. In one respect, I definitely understand what's contributing to the society, obviously, with more guns on the street. And I think Tennessee has a very big problem when it comes to gun safety in gun storage, because you get a lot of broken in. A lot of people use their cars, their vehicles as their safe, as a gun safe. And
Yeah,
then what
because
makes
that
it
was a
worse is that
law that they put in place in like 2008, or or 10, or somewhere around there, to designate trunks as an extension of one's home. Yeah, that was kind.
but then but you know what? That's already comical already, right? Just how bad it is. But then you add to the fact that most modern cars are use key fobs, and people are lazy and they don't want their window busted. So people leave their key fobs in their cars just to keep it, to hopefully keep, or to make it easier for them when they're going in and out of their car, so they don't have to remember that they have the key on them. So that also contributes to it too. So it's a mess when it comes to that. But as far as the guns, I mean, it is what it is. Honestly, that's not a hill I'm working on. I'm trying to focus on areas within the gun control that we can agree on. That's why I stick to, top 4 or 5 topics we all agree upon when it comes to gun reforms,
I think that's.
registering the
Mhm.
gun, background checks,
Yes, I.
mental red flag
Right.
laws.
And I think that's wise. So kudos to you for that. Another area that I'm really concerned about, and it seems that you are too, is education and what they're doing and trying to do here. The voucher bill failed, but the governor is not giving up on it, neither is the GOP legislator. What are people in the community? What are their thoughts around that? And do you find that they are really informed, or are they buying into the schools are failing and we need to make this change, kind of narrative that's being pushed around it?
No, I think no. It's just the opposite. The people are not buying into it. They don't like it. And they're like, why are you guys? And that goes back to like when I said about my opponent, Senator Farrell. And he's not here to do what the constituents say. He's doing what he thinks is best for the state. And they don't like it because it would shut down the schools. You get up to the county seat, it's just the one high school there, maybe two. So one of those gets shut down. Okay, where do all those kids go? Because they're not all of them are not going to be able to go to one of the private schools, or afford the private schools, even with the
And
vouchers.
we don't have
There's
it.
no
We
policy.
don't have that many in that county. So that means people would be
Nope.
having to go to Nashville. And so that's the same situation with a lot of the outlying counties. And although there are a lot here, there are not enough to take on all of that. And then what about the people who are not able to transport their kids because that means, there's no bus service. We don't have good public transportations. It's not like we have trains and buses running from these towns. So then what? And people get it.
Hold on. I need you to slow down. You kind of walked over a part. I need people to understand and hear that. Okay. In the Davidson County. Okay, the northernmost city closest to Sumner County is a town called Madison side of Nashville. Okay, right across the county line, the next town is Hendersonville. Okay, so we're talking Hendersonville, which is actually the biggest city in population within the county. It borders to Nashville. Hendersonville does not have bus service. It does not have public transportation, and we're talking a mile across the county line. You cannot get a bus to take you from Hendersonville to downtown Nashville. And actually, you're closer to downtown Nashville and Hendersonville than you are in Antioch, which is part of Davidson County, which is part of Nashville. It's freaking ridiculous how they don't have any type of infrastructure out here. They don't have trains. They don't have any trains. They definitely don't have any busing services. I mean, so to Dee's point about education, you shut down one of the schools. How are those people commuting an hour now from Gallatin or even further north, say Westmoreland, which is closer to the state line, or Portland? Now you're talking about parents have to travel an hour to get the kids to school on top of trying to go to work and fight the traffic too. Oh, man. And that's, of course, if they even have the ability to do that. And what happens to those kids that don't? And what happens if those kids, because of a pre-existing condition, cannot get into one of those private schools now? Now what happens? And people see that. And they feel that. And so, no, the county actually was one of the few Republican counties that sent a letter from the county head saying, hey, we do not support the school voucher program. It would destroy schools in Sumner County. I believe Montgomery County, too, which is where Clarksville, Tennessee is located, their county board also sent a letter to the state saying they don't support
They did. And
But yet you
and
still have
so did
Republicans that still trying
and
to push
so
it.
did Rutherford County because they get it. And it's the same thing that happened in Texas when that governor was trying to ram that bill through. People in their communities, for some, like I am a graduate of that high school. Now they have a couple more because they built a few more since I went. But that was like the center of activity for a lot of people in the community. They have their football games, their other sports and things that go around it. They have their theater programs that bring people to their plays, their shows, and all sorts of activities and things that are centered around our schools. And many of the schools in our county are used as voting polls. So people get that when they understand when you are talking about making major shifts and changes to their life and their livelihood and their children. Really, when you start messing with their children and you offer no alternatives or no reasonable alternatives, because the voucher is not going to transport them every day. That's going to take a human, or something, So I love that people really do have that feeling because I'm a little bit removed kind of from, I have lots of family there and stuff, but I'm not there talking to people on the ground and getting their feeling. I'm getting this kind of through family and friends and so forth. So it's really good to hear you who are out there actively on the campaign trail, talking to people about these issues to see where they
Yeah.
stand. What would you
You know what? That's so crazy too. How a county separates makes it a world away. I see it. Because I go between the counties a lot because my parents in Tennessee, say my folks, my dad still lives in Bordeaux and whatnot. So I mean, I'm in between the counties literally every day. So it seems more of a region to me, but it's very distinctive now between Davidson and Sumner. And it's like, we talk to one, it's like you might as well be in Knoxville for the other one, even though we're bordering county.
Absolutely. So what would you say when you're out there are some of the key concerns that the citizens you run into bring up to you?
I'll point to, as I said, the guns in school. They're against that. When they find out, especially younger parents, that they don't have pre-K 3 and pre-K 4 here, but they do in Davidson County and Nashville, they're mad about that they don't have pre-K 3, pre-K 4. That's 2 extra years of daycare that they're having to pay for, that they shouldn't be having to pay for. I point to Again, gun control also is an issue up here as well too. Gun reforms. I mean, because again, the Covenant School, Covenant School is 20 minutes away from where from the county, so they all resonate with that, and so they all agree with that as far as trying to demand action on gun reforms here, even with Beretta being here. And I understand how I get the politics of why the government's trying to push for that, but I mean at the same time it goes back to they're not listening to the people. I mean, people can work for Beretta. Hey, it's a job. It's paying you good money. It's providing you healthcare benefits. So it's allowing you and your family to contribute to society and everybody else to grow around here too. You know, your kids are going to the same school my kids are going to. So I want them getting a good education as well too. I get it. It's an instrument of war. I understand that. And we can work on trying to be more responsible with it. You know, as far as because there's too many, unfortunately, it's too many that are abusing it that we have to put in some type of we got to put in some rails. But other than that, I'm cool. But I would say those are the big issues. And then also healthcare. Healthcare is an issue as well too because they've shut down hospitals. They don't have actually the hospital situation is so bad here that especially as you get to the more rural part of the county, closer to the state line, the Tennessee, Kentucky state line, those people have to drive an hour and a half to get to Nashville, go to a hospital.
Yeah.
They don't have any
Yes,
hospitals up
and
there.
I know of that situation too because I worked in healthcare in the county, in your city there in Hendersonville for an orthopedic, and my mom retired from the Sumner Regional before it was a public hospital. It was still a private hospital, and the hospitals in all of the surrounding areas when they refused to expand Medicare and other things that would be supporting them, all of those hospitals closed. And we also have a huge, like the state is like many states have their industries. Certainly, with all the gun manufacturers
Mhm.
here, that is a big part of our industry. But we also have a big healthcare industry here, HCA and
Yeah.
others. And so we also have this issue. I cannot think of the correct title for it, but it's almost kind of like a need for service or non-compete almost where people recognize in certain communities that they do need healthcare facilities and centers. But then you have these big conglomerates who are kind of shutting down the possibility, the studies that would address establishing healthcare services there because of this crazy law that we have about them having to establish a need when in some of these places there is no other medical facility nearby, but one just close enough to deny the ability of one to be brought in because that we're having here in our state. And I'm glad that you brought that up because that's happening in a lot of rural southern states where is not being the
Contribute to the fentanyl epidemic as well because people are like it's cheaper for them just to go buy some street fentanyl and self-medicate trying to drive an hour to Nashville or drive another hour again to go see a doctor.
yeah,
It's
it's
so it's actually contributing to the
right.
drug problem.
Yeah,
That's
it's not
crazy.
helping any because that problem was kind of already there. And then these types of things exacerbate it because people, like now, while they may be trying to manage it some with pain management centers and those types of things, most of them are located they're located here in Nashville and places where people have to now go out of their county. Like you got transportation problems and all sorts of other things. So we should have communities where people have good schools and good access to medical care available to us within reasonable distances. Um, we do have someone who has come up, Ziggy. I'm going to call on him. Perhaps he has a question for you. But Walter, it is so important what you're doing. I am so grateful that just to take on this um, challenge And we're going to do all that we can to continue support you and your work. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to go to Ziggy, and then I want to go to my co-host and anyone else that's here on the see if they may have some questions for you, because we've um, gone back and forth and talked it up. A lot of people probably don't understand, the dynamics, but hopefully we have helped to bring clarity to the area that you are running, and it's important. Gee.
Thank you, Dee. Hello, Soul here. And I mean, yes, just on the thing about and whatever is yes is we are with all this, and it isn't to see it, a lot of other states also that back in the 50s and 60s, all the Detroit got into, oh, everybody has to have cars, every driveway, chicken in every sort of thing. And that country is much set up at this point. There was a lot more rail back in the 50s that might be refurbished now, but most of them have to put in all new tracks and whatever. And because petroleum based products have consistently low, there has been no real impact to actually get that sort of infrastructure back in, even for things like streetcars and whatever. That
Well, that may be the case in some areas, Ziggy, but as far as the infrastructure, it exists here. We have trains rolling through our communities. The tracks, they're there. Are they not, Walter? I mean, I used to
Then,
live right beside
oh
one.
no,
So I'll tell you where part of the
yeah,
problem
but are
is.
they in decent shape?
Yes,
Is
that's what I'm
yes, and
telling.
that's my
That's
thing.
I am telling you, Ziggy, is that they are
you know
there. They're moving freight. They are just not transporting people. And part of that reason is because of a dark money initiative that took place when they were trying to expand it in 2017 or 18. The Americans for Prosperity, the Kochs, ran a campaign to purposely stop it and to shut it down. They had people voting against their own interests. So the infrastructure is here that are preventing it from advancing.
well
Yeah, that was nasty. That was a nasty campaign. They actually played both sides on that one. They scared the affluent people that lived in Belgium, one of the old rich money parts of Nashville. They scared them that you're going to have black people coming over there if you and start more crime if they allow busing services, bus services that bring them through this section of town, even though you need it and you're begging for it. Then on the black side of town, they said they scared them, saying, "Hey, you know what? If you do this and you busing service, so the bus runs past 7 o'clock, which is where it does stops right now, then that's going to bring more people up here, which is buy you and push you out of here even faster than what's happening. So you should vote against this." So they played both sides against each other and got the vote that they needed. It was ridiculous. And here we are in 2024, and they're still complaining about traffic. They're still complaining about travel times, and but there are talks though trying to do a rail, I think, between Memphis, Nashville, and Chattanooga now to connect to
Yes,
Atlanta.
thank goodness
So
Nashville's mayor is he used to serve in the transportation board or committee. So he is very well adept at understanding that, and he is working really hard. I hope, of course, I am here in Nashville now, so I want it to improve, because even here, with what we do have, it is still not enough to serve the population that is here in all communities, because I live in this part, and the buses don't come as frequently to this area, the route. So a lot of this stuff, as I said, has been politicized. And you're right, you explained perfectly, because they have an application that is able to kind of parse things so precisely on how people feel about certain issues, and then explain, craft messages to scare whatever those feelings are, to get them to vote that would actually benefit them. Of course, their industry is asphalt. That's the cokes, and they also manufacture seatbelt parts and things like that. So that was also part of it. Is just greed, and we and how throughout a lot of these issues that we face, not only here in my state, but across the country. They're being driven by people in the fossil fuel industry and these big corporations and companies that are getting people to vote for that essentially are well being. So,
I
so
I think point that Ziggy was trying to make in unique origin of the Detroit Three. And so there was a very concerted effort here to not rail. And I think he was just trying to, qualify. I see he has his hand up, and I'm sure he'll speak to it himself. But that I think that's where he was
mhm,
trying to go as well. Which is you guys are saying the exact same thing.
yeah.
It's just different different geographies, same issue, same dark money. Because we have to remember that here in Michigan, the same thing that they are trying to do in Tennessee. Ford Motor Company has so much land, and basically the setup of Michigan, actually in the surrounding Detroit area, was demonstrably initiated by Henry Ford. He said the Polish people are going to live in Hamtramck. The black people are going to live in white people to live um, Dearborn. Um, the Hispanic and Latina community is going to live in West Detroit. Literally, that hasn't changed too much, except for the fact that we had a major influx of international students coming here to Michigan, primarily those of the Muslim community, which themselves in Dearborn. That's probably the biggest change after Henry Ford set up all of these communities. And I mean, like, I couldn't even get a realtor, and I'm speaking from experience of my parents. You couldn't even get a realtor to show you any different areas. It was, I know that people have seen the deed past where it says this not ever um, be sold into the hands of the words they then colored Negro. You know, and it was that's how that's what Ziggy would speak to. But my question, Walter, is that I did follow you, and I hope that everyone the opportunity right now, just do it right now. Do it. Follow this man, support him. Do you have an opponent? And then also, can you what if you had points? What would it be?
Opponent? You mean the primary opponent?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, no, I do not. I'm running unopposed in my primary.
Awesome. That's
Yes.
great. I'm so
No,
happy
right.
for you.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. As far as my platform education on uniforms and expanding healthcare, expanding Medicare. Because I'm focused on education, technical breaking down of that, primarily starting with pre-K, expanding pre-K 3 and pre-K 4 into my district because other districts have it. So there's money available. And you know what's crazy about this? We looked at the books for our county. There's like $100 million surplus, $100 million deficit in the educational budget here in our county. But the state likes to brag to the rest of the country that Tennessee's fiscally responsible and that they have a budget surplus right now for the state, $1 billion out to companies. But yet you have a county here that has a deficit. Where's that money? Send some of the money to the state. They shouldn't be able to run a deficit, but you brag about having a surplus. That doesn't make sense to me. Well, my bad. I
N-
mean, sorry.
No, that's
Yeah.
important. And I appreciate you. Like I said, I hate to, just talk about things that are really near dear to me that other people may not be able to grasp. But when people like you and Brenda are running for office, it helps to shine a light small communities like this and their important. And I do feel that. feral health is an awful representative, and that Tennesseans in that area community deserve better representation. And I think those are excellent issues for you to running
Absolutely.
on. Head. So, sister, did you have anything else?
No, no, thank you.
All right. So I'll give Walter a chance to chime in.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Soul Sister was basically just history startup in Detroit, and uh, maybe Tennessee is in better shape than other parts of the country in that there is some decent rail still, but basically right now it is traffic. It really is passenger traffic, and I mean just as far as a platform point is that, I mean, if cars are going to be getting way over expensive just because Detroit is make as much money as they can off of their new models kind of thing, and gas going to go up because things are crappy in the East and in Russia, and uh, uh, that may have collateral getting gas up into the $5 to $6 range. If people start getting so that their cars break down for miles they have to move because they can't afford to live in the county that don't have the public. And I mean,
Yeah,
let me finish. This was happening down here in Florida too. It got to where moving the housing happened in '08 that uh, the governments were running because they weren't having taxpayers that could afford to live. And this is like a slower sort of thing, but getting things like transportation as a political point that screw the asphalt company, ever, that we need the public kind of stuff just in case, you know, the infrastructure that's the asphalt company, cheap cars and cheap gas goes south. Got to move. They aren't going. Nobody's going to be paying taxes that are empty because nobody wants to move there because this is starting to get as elsewhere in the country doesn't have the incomes, and it's oh no, it can't happen. It's happening sooner than people want to think.
well, again, I think that we see this happening across many states, and again, this is something that is happening here in ways where companies are coming in. Many of them, we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and Black STEM talked about this. Oracle just announced that they're going to be moving their world headquarters here, and how many people they will be employing. But remember, we're here, like Sam talked about, that really whatever number they give, 20% will probably actually come from that population. Is it pushes people who are already there out. We also are in a state where they have refused to raise the minimum wage. So there are lots of factors that are at play. And I think probably mostly what we can stand is that the Republicans are not trying to do things that are going to be improving the quality of life, the cost of living for average Americans, that their focus is on the billionaires, and it is the billionaire class that is pulling the string of most of the politicians who are involved in legislating around us now. We have this stadium, which already moved people out, but then the expanding of the stadium has moved even more people out. It's the spam has created unaffordable housing. Oh, we have this new thing. Talk about infrastructure. I talked about infrastructure week every week, but they never actually did anything. But we have this wonderful administration in place who actually has had groundbreaking on infrastructure, and it is something that is desperately needed, but again, is held back by um, basically one party. So what did they do here? We have all these people moving in here. Our roads and stuff are as it is most of the time it's always like a decade behind where it needs to be, instead of them trying to actually really, really improve it. They couldn't do without sticking a grift in. So, Walter talked about our governor trying to get, or no, passing, the Tennessee legislature passing a bill to give the billionaire a break, a refund, tune of what, about $1.8 million. They also decided their answer to fixing the infrastructure here was to build choice lanes. And these are public privatized roads, basically toll roads. And I will be located one. And that further also hurts people who are in marginalized communities that don't have good transportation. It just again, the answers that they are providing are not the answers for the average American. They are the answers for the billionaires. It's a way for them to profit or to improve their lives. But I don't want to go on too much. Kind of add some things in here.
Oh yes, I did. Actually, you were kind of touching on in detail the more broad topic. I know Soul Sister asked me earlier. Another thing I'm hearing on the ground, or maybe it was he was asking me. They are concerned about the growth and managing the growth as it's grown out. So see, other people of Nashville's had for decades. We're talking about for almost 12 years. They've had people moving, not visiting, moving for over a decade. Okay. So that has transformed the city, and now that transformation of the city has had a lot of good. One of the side effects of that, though, is growth, and that growth starts to see outer parts of the counties and the border county, and people are rightfully concerned about that. But it doesn't have to be a scary thing. It doesn't have to mean you have to move off your land or anything like that. It actually could. I've been flipping it, and I've been telling people about, this is your opportunity to create wealth for your descendants and your descendants after this, because growth is coming. And this is something I actually did agree with on my opponent again. Growth is coming whether they want to accept it or not. Now they can sue and they can delay it, and they can delay it about 20 years. And I said, you know what, and that's true. And you know what's going to happen? They're going to build up a circle around you while you delay it. After 20 years that they spent of spending all the money trying to fight the court cases, the states will come in and take all the stuff anyway, or give it to you for pennies on the dollar at that point when they do. So it's like there's an opportunity there again to reach across the aisle to say, hey, the growth is coming. There is no reason that you cannot set yourself up financially here to benefit from what's on here, as opposed to trying to fight it for what, an extra acre? Okay. It looks nice when I drive past it. I know you like riding on it too and everything, but the city's coming forward now, or it's going to come forward in 15 years, and years where you could be between now and 15 years from now. That resonates with people.
I like that because you're right. There are just certain things that are just inevitable, and change is one of those things. And Nashville is no longer the little, like hometown. I mean, it has some hometown there, but it is growing. It is bulging, and that bulge is seeping over into the neighboring counties like ours. And the best thing for us to do, and I love your approach, is to embrace change and try to guide it, harness it in a way that is going to be beneficial to the greatest number of people. In other words, harness it in a way that it will be more good. Your approach there. And I know Near,
Yeah,
yeah,
appreciate it.
Near, you came back up. Did you want to
Yeah,
chime in?
I
Yes.
wanted to. Yeah, I know it's not. First of all, I want to say thanks and that you're running, Walter. I think you're passionate the way about your children, family, and wow, an amazing. I don't know you as a patient, but I can tell you as a being, you have the biggest heart. The way you spoke about again and who you are, and I wish you the best luck. And I think you are going to run in, and you should run for winning because it's the only way to go. So I did follow you, and I will support anyway. And we need people like you, people the focus and what's matter, education, whatever it is to you. And when you talked about your children, I got goosebumps because you know what? children are our future. So, Walter, I'm saluting you. I am standing by you. And I think you are going to win. You just keep going. Don't you going all the way to get the gold. It's just the way it's going to go. So this is for you. And news from Israel, I just wanted you to know that right now, I actually posted, you don't have to see it, but videos that I post. We have thousands and thousands of people on the street firing. We are not letting anybody move till Benjamin Netanyahu will make a decision to stop the war and bring our hostages back. So it's no more war. And I am so glad. It's exactly 10:57. It's 11 o'clock at night. And just in the last half an hour, people are leaving their home and they're going to be there till 2, 3 in the morning. And we are not going to give till we are going to stop this crazy war. And I do want to correct one thing that I said earlier, or I did not said earlier, that it was rockets coming from Rafah towards Israel that killed 3 Israelis too. So I want to be fair for both sides. So I cannot say the one side, but one thing, and I want you to be clear. So when people talk about Israeli people, watch the video. What's happened, and we do not want to go there because it's going to be much harder to get democracy back when going now and do whatever it takes. Understand, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we need to live democracy. And democracy is going to look different for each one, maybe your own city, your own state, but democracy is for all of us. And, the little details about, the building and all this, they're important. But right now, you guys, please, I'm so glad the Soul Sister said, please follow, because before she even said it, he opened his mouth and I followed him. This what together mean. This what means we are together. We are not waiting. We are not waiting to see, is this guy is okay, she's okay. We don't have to agree on everything. But it's a Democrat. We have a same goal, democracy. Follow each other, move together 6 months. It's going to be tough, but we can make it so much fun. And because you know what's going to kill the Republican? That we do it with a smile, and we're going to kill them with a smile. Because we are the good people. We are about equality. And Soul Sister talked about the union. Every time she talks about the union, before I heard Soul Sister a few months ago, I didn't know about the union. I know we have union in Israel, but right now I know what's happening in America. And I'm telling you, Dee and Soul Sister, and each one of you, now it's the time to wake up. Not for a month before the election or 2 months, it's right now. 6 months fly. Trust me, I'm 60 years old. The time flies much faster than we think. So please, you guys, follow each other, and we need to focus that can make a difference. And one thing that I always say, we have Kamala, you have a beautiful Kamala as a vice president, we amazing president. You guys, we must talk about them. We must, whatever Soul Sister was talking about, what Kamala is doing today. We need to retweet it. Today it's all social media. And I need Walter. We need to make sure that Walter is going from 500 and something follower to 10,000 in a month. This is how strong we are. We have no time right now. Right now, follow each other. Even if you don't like when somebody says something, it's fine. We are not here to be best friends. We're here one thing: win our election. Thank you.
Oh, Near, thank you, thank you, thank you. I pay him for that, Walter, but I am not surprised by that because he gets it. And we are in a room full of who do get it, understand, although they may not. Um, Tennessee, they I am sure are familiar with states. They may be in another state similar to that, or very aware of other states. And it is important for all of us not to have this kind of isolationist type of attitude about, well, I hate it when people say that, well, y'all should have voted or whatever. It's important, yes, that people vote. It's not possible for all of us to know all the dynamics of all the different things, nuances going on in various different states, which is why I love that we are able to come here spaces like get to understand them a little bit better. But what we all understand is democracy and how fragile it is. One of the first stories I posted today was about anocracy, which is in Viktor Orban, liberal democracy. And that is where the Republicans are trying to take us because our democracy, it was just a little blip on the news, short period of time before the former guy left office, but we were downgraded from a democracy because of all of the behavior of the former guy. And this was before he had his little playbook to use and his trained army of loyalists. And make no mistake about it, we talk about it all the time. This is an imminent, a real imminent threat that we faced. Something that we didn't when we were going over kind of news highlights and things is the 60 Minutes view with Speaker Jeffries. And he talked about there being pro Putin in the House of Representatives, not my little county or state house, but in the U.S. House of Representatives. Make no mistake, autocracy is it. This election is not just about the red, the blue team, Republicans. It truly is the election of our line. It is an election that determine whether we have another election anytime soon or whether those elections will be true and fair and counted as they should be. They are out now loud and proud, letting us know that if it's not their way, um, it's not going to count. And we need to keep that uppermost mind and find that it's like Walter and
I have to stop you and tell you, you are the most amazing, powerful, smart woman. I admire you. I love you. Don't laugh. I'm totally serious. You are everything that a leader woman, I don't know, everybody need to learn. You are so focused. You are so focused one thing. And the message you are bringing us every week, I hate to stop you because I get goosebumps when I listen to you. So you know how much I love you and everybody else. I'll tell you one thing, you guys. Love right now, it's action. When we see something that we don't like, we stand up. We cannot be silent anymore. 6 months, no silence. Like they say, get in good trouble. We need to into these troubles now because this is how we're going to win this election. By talking about the good things that we're doing and not listen to those people that try to split us up. They make us look, trying to make us look like, honey, we are stronger than everybody. And D, I'm telling you right now, I to choose for, for a leader for my city, I will definitely choose you. You're an absolutely all about everything that a democracy is speaking and talking about. So thank you. Sorry, I had to interrupt you.
oh, thank you, Near. But I really am. I am just a very concerned and engaged citizen. And I want to see other people engage in their democracy. It warms my heart. It is contagious, I think, to hear people like Susan working the polls. People like Walter running for office, others of you who I know are frequent visitors and speakers and contributors to the space. You do canvassing, you phone bank, you text bank, you amplify candidates, and you are continuing to stay engaged because you know what to stake. Because again, we go back to the fact that our democracy is at stake. It is hanging by a thread, just for a short period of time, because once we were declared an anocracy, but once President Biden took office and things started to kind of back to a sense of normalcy, our function as a democracy was restored. But as quickly as it was taken away, um, that can happen again, and we may not be able to restore it so quickly. And it's easier for us to fight for our democracy while we still have it than to be at a place where it is lost and we're trying to get it back, because that doesn't happen overnight. And we started the space with the history of the Holocaust and remembering what happened there. And I just see all around me the culture wars that are being stoked and how they are playing out and whose hands they play in, because some of it is being stoked, um, roots of Russian propaganda, because Western democracy takes autocrats and have kind of chaos in democracies when you have people doubting whether their votes count, or starting to use phraseology like alternative facts and election integrity. It makes less trusting. And that is, I mean, we know some of these things that are pure nonsense, but there are groups of people who are in echo chambers, who Fox News and all of these wing um, podcasts, where that's the diet of information that they are being fed. It is a narrative to keep them angry and fearful, well informed. And again, I say, an uninformed electorate is a very easy population to control. And that's what we need to pull back sometimes, because we get too in the emotional weeds of these cultural issues that divide us. Because remember, like I talked to you guys about the formation of Turning Point USA Faith. That organization was formed with the explicit intent of seeing the culture wars, um, differences and things that really already existed in our society. But what culture wars do is to kind of pick at scabs, and inflame them, to blow them up. Because when people are so in things, they're distracted from the main things, from the most important things. The people seeking to undermine our democracy, who are planting these ideas and stoking the fears and the angers in very sometimes ways, and sometimes in very direct ways. And they can talk out of both sides of their mouth so easily, and they sound really well informed. I'm going to tell you about. I sometimes I watch the right wing nuts, and I go to these websites and things because I think it's important we understand what the other side is doing and how they're doing it. And I listened to Christopher Rufo, who was. Very much a part of this Moms for Liberty rock, and also responsible for putting the CRT into our lexicon. I listened to him. He was doing a talk, you could say a TED talk of sorts, to the Danube Institute in Hungary. Okay, remember, he idolized Viktor Orban from Hungary, and the issues that he was talking about and the spin that he was giving, ridiculous. It sounded really rational, but you have to understand and know the truth. I'm going to expound on that a little bit, but I want to hear from Near first. I need to find my notes when I was watching that, because I was just astounded listening to him. If this was your first introduction to him, and you didn't have any background understanding, it almost sound reasonable, because he wasn't screaming and yelling, like a lot of these right wing podcasters and stuff do. And I him do that, but in this bit, he was um, calm, seemingly reason, um, speech about culture wars. Was absolutely. Um, bizarre and missing a lot of facts, but he spin it, the narrative that he painted. I can see how that would stir and cause concern. So go ahead, Near. I'm going to find my notes here.
Okay, I just want to say some few months ago in one of your in your space, LMZ stood up and she spoke that our biggest concern in I don't know exactly she said it, but he touched my heart and I get it that we right now, you know, we are the one. If we don't win, it's not because them, it's because us. So we need to take responsibility right now, because when LMZ was talking about like months and months and months ago, when she stood up and she said, I'm not worried about the other. I'm not either, because I don't think they're strong. What I'm worried about that we need to understand right now that we must be together. And LMZ, I don't know if she can hear me, but it stuck to my head so strong how we cannot be our own enemies right now. And Soul Sister said it in so many spaces. Right now, it's not about we don't need to agree on everything. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to, but guess what? After the election, we can do it. Right now, say it again and again, because I'm watching the video from Israel and I'm telling you, it is going to be just like you said, D. If we do it now, we're winning this election. Easy, easy. But we must understand that we need to get together, one democracy. And the reason I'm saying, because in the last, we see what's happening in America, and what's happening in America right now is very simple. Some trying, if it's Russia is doing it, the mega, whatever, very good job, trying to divide us so much that we are actually starting to actually asking ourselves, are we the right thing? It's like, is this good? Is this bad? Guess what? It's not about good, bad, right or wrong. We have one thing that we're worried about. It's our, democracy. Because without a democracy, all those people, if we lose, guess what? Your voice, my voice, will not matter anymore. So if you fight right now for something and we lost our democracy, guess what? Listen to us after November 5th if we are not going to win this election. Or what I want to say, and LMZ, I will never forget when you said it, that and she actually gave an example about, if you guys remember, about Bernie Sanders and all those people the people in the beginning, before we had the craziness in the Middle East, people say, well, Biden is too old. Well, if it was somebody else, then it's okay. But with Biden, it's not okay. And it's exactly what we need to focus. It is not about the little well, there are big things, but they're not important right now. Right now, united, togetherness. Because I'll tell you the truth, when I listen to the other side speaking, I don't know that what they're. I mean, half of them don't even know what they're speaking about. Half of these people that are protesting, I'm not going to put it down, but they don't know what the river, they don't know what the sea they're talking about. Guess what? I don't care. We need to remember one thing. This is not about the river and the sea. It's not about Palestine and Israel. It's not about Russia and Ukraine. It's not about Sudan. One president and one vice president. It's all what we need to focus on. Two are going to lead us for the next 4 years if we do the right things. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Nair. I appreciate you saying that. It's what I have been saying for the past year. It is so important that we drop these slight differences that we have, and I mean, some of them are with emotion, but when we compare it to our ability to be able to express it, which we have because we have a democracy, and the lack of ability of us being able to express our dissent, our differences, that's huge. It's important that we maintain our democracy, that we for it, that we expand and perfect it, because it's only within the democracy that going to be able to see other issues addressed. Because should we into an autocratic or a theocratic state of government, wishes will be squashed. And I will retweeted on my timeline, but I've shared with you guys before of the warnings from Eastern European countries who have gone through this and who understand how their democracies were lost, are to get it back together and kind of again to bring it back to kind of where we started today. When the war uprising took place, these were people coming together from very different factions, from the far left to the far right, all kind of to the Boy Scouts, all coming together to save their country from two sides, two on both sides, Russia, Stalin, and Hitler. They ended up losing, but they maintained that fight for about 2 weeks, and some lives were saved. They still ended up going into concentration camps, but I think that in part that um, maybe they realized the need for their togetherness, their need to come together and to fight as one. Little too late. They did do it, and they fought valiantly, but that's the message that I keep trying to make sure is centered in the conversations that we have here in Advocacy Arena. Have said it will require uncomfortable coalitions, and winning elections is about addition. Love that, you know, Walton, an area that I know has a lot of conservatives in it, but he is speaking to the people as individuals. Feel like when we take our conversations down to that individual level and that we relate to one another at that level, can find common ground. And I'm saying right now, if we can find no other common ground, let's find the common ground of democracy. Let us agree on that. Let us come together on that and fight for that, even with people we may otherwise disagree with on many issues. But let us live to be able to fight a day to hash in a democratic way, because this a nihilistic approach that's being pushed and encouraged is dangerous to all of us, even those who are calling for the want. They will not get them by annihilating the other side or the people that disagree with them. It will not come about that way. Near again for helping me to center that issue and that attitude in our conversations. And we are getting close to the closing hour. So, what I would like to do is to give the folks who are up here on the stage an opportunity for closing thoughts, starting with Susan, then Nair, and then Walter. Give us a call to action, how we can help you. Tell us some things that you're going to be doing, perhaps that we can help amplify and support. We'll close out this code. So, Susan, closing.
Yes, as always, I'm today a lot of time to listen to everything said, and it's just the space. I love everybody who is here, and it's very, very important that you guys keep this going, please. And I agree with Near 6 is nothing. Time flies. I think commenting on your good morning tweets once in a while, time flies. It's just crazy. Another week. So yeah, we're getting faster than we think. So please keep up the good work, and I appreciate and good luck to Mr. Walter for his campaign. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Suki, for the work that you're doing, because you are absolutely working in a very important part of our um, democracy. Our elections and the work that people do around that is critical. And so I just want to thank you and applaud you and encourage anyone else who's out there. If you're sitting on the fence about it or wondering how to get involved, an election worker is certainly an area where you would be very valued and needed because this last administration did so much to make people of doing what is just a very basic, playing a very basic role in the operation of. I've been a poll worker and vibrant, exciting, but it's hard. It's a very, very hard job. That day is seems endless, but I think the excitement of just seeing all of the activity kind of keeps you. But at the end of it, you recognize, like, and this was hard. So I don't want anyone to take those efforts for granted. And I want to encourage anyone else who may be trying to figure out how they might get involved. You're very likely in a place that could utilize an election worker because they were so decimated because they were targeted very direct and um, very harmful ways during the last administration. So just want you so doing what you do to keep up the good work, um, keep making good. And so next we'll hear from Near and then Walter.
Okay, I'll make short. So I'm going to actually close my statement with let's not forget that for you guys, for us, it's already over, but it is the Jewish Holocaust Remembrance Day. We do not want to forget anybody history, including the Holocaust. And we all, like Dee said, and I said earlier, all have history. We I don't know how you say it, but we owe it to our grandparents to not forget them because they are the reason we are here today. Number one. Second thing I want to say that every time I come to space, and I live much more. I'm very optimistic all the time, even that I'm a very now, but I believe that with work and being smart, um, we can make it easy for us if we focus on thing democracy. And I think we have an amazing group of people here. I know not everybody speak, but I'm sure all the listener. I mean, I can see the people there, and Joseph. I want to thank you to you and Soul Sister and Dee and Jen and Susie and Walter. You guys need to know that people like for me, it's democracy, it's peace, it's love, it's taking care of each other. Human, it's being taking care of every. We are all different. We are all the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Nair, and I appreciate you and your fight for democracy. Even though you are across the ocean, also in the middle of for democracy there, your homeland. I appreciate the courage that you exhibit and your tenacity in the midst of a war, basically still having a heart for humanity and a desire to continue to fight. I think that your example can be an example for all of us because it is important. And I love that. I think I said this on your timeline earlier in the week that you are a person of love. Like you said, you're a hippie. We're from the same time. We grew up during the same time period. I too, I call myself a boho chick. I'm just, like a hippie. Okay. I like sending good vibes. I think the world is full of goodness. We only have to look and to amplify it. And I love that you are able to hear people and to see people and to see the good and to call that out, being the fabulous person that you are near. So next, we're coming to you, Walter, and would like to offer you an opportunity, as I said, call to action, just some closing thoughts so that we can remember your race, what you're doing, what you are support you and amplify.
You again, Miss D. Thank you, Sister Soldier, for the opportunity. Thank you, Near. I appreciate it. I front just for a second, Near. I I love how you say my name. I really do like that. I was like, Walter. I like that. So anyway, I'm okay. I don't know why, man. Just like I get real particular about my name. So like, I don't like anybody. I have to it's on a case by case basis whether they can say, Walter or shorten it to like Walt, because it depends on how they stress it. Some people stress it, the T, and it just drives me crazy. Some Walt, but how you say Walter, I love it. So I appreciate you, Nick. But um, digression aside, I appreciate this opportunity again to talk to you guys today. Again, my name is Walter, running for Tennessee State Senate District 18. So please, my call to action will be please could you donate to our campaign, help our campaign. I have donation links in my Apple link is both in the purple pill and up in the jumbotron. So please not only to contribute, but also consider setting up a recurrence. We need your donation to make. They need your help getting this thing moving. Um, we have some. We're still working on some things setting up. We're going to be having a launch event in about 3 weeks now. So I'll definitely let you guys know about that, letting you know how we're progressing in the interim. In between that and now, I'm just continuing to grind, just talk to people, get my name out there, walk the streets, and get this graduation season. Graduation season is being really busy with me right now. Between this weekend, they got another graduations going back to Chicago next weekend, so it's just around. So yeah, appreciate all your help. I appreciate the opportunity and get involved. I promise you, it is so much more fun, and you guys, promise you, you take the knowledge you guys amass here and come share here every day. You'll be superstars. You'll be rock stars, and wherever you go, wherever town, wherever county you're in, just by the knowledge you'll become bring, and they can use you. We can all use you. We can all do it, and we all chip in. We'll be cakewalking this thing. We'll be moonwalking across November 4th in November. I holler at that. Oh, last, if I don't say to all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day coming up this week. Congrats, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Appreciate you.
Well, thank you, Walter. And again, we so appreciate you. I learned of your running a couple of weeks ago, and I still have on the list for you to do for us to do our one-on-one. And as I said, working hard to get you some exposure, get you a platform in our Tennessee, our Blue Tennessee. Um, Monthly meetings to hopefully garner you some more support. So you guys, you have met a wonderful candidate here, and he is running in a place that I know, a place that I call home, a place that very much needs good representation. This young man is bringing. So please do follow him, um, contribute to his campaign if he is able to get some other activities going. I want you to bring them to us and see if we can help you with that, whether it's text banking, phone
Oh
banking.
yes, that's coming.
Okay.
That's coming.
So you
All of
haven't
that. All of that's coming.
so you have an open invitation to come here to ask for our support because, of course, I adopted you because that is my hometown. Even though, I can't vote there, I am always keeping up with what's going there. And it really means a lot because it does affect family. So thank you for your courage and your efforts and all your hard work because I know that's not easy. Deciding to run is one thing. Actually getting out there and doing the work required for a campaign is not for the faint of heart. So I just want to thank you, encourage you, let you know we believe in you, we're supporting you, and we want to do all that we can to help you. You know what's at stake, and I think that you would be a welcomed addition to our state house, and I am going to do everything I can to help you get there. We deserve good representatives like you. So thank you so much. And thank you for coming in and sharing with us today. And again, I want to say don't be shy. We're here every Monday and we want the updates. We need to know because we're 6 months away. We need to know where our candidates are, what they're doing, how we can help so that we can secure this democracy and get some representatives who understand that they are representatives, that they are representing us and not, folks who get there and what was it that Farrell said? Like he don't have to listen to the people. What was it?
Right. No, I'm not here for the constituents. I'm here for the state. I'm here to do what's right for the state.
Yeah, no, he's all mixed up. We need to fix that. So uh,
Man, I'm telling you.
that's crazy. So again, thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart. And again, I'll be reaching out to you so we can, work on the others that we have planned. And I'm so delighted to have you join our conversation today. It's been
Thank you, ma'am.
wonderful.
Thank you, Misty.
All right.
Appreciate you.
All right. We up next. I have my fabulous co-host.
Well, thank you, Miss D, and thank you for another great space today. It's always a pleasure, and it's always I'll be in this space with you all. I really want to give up, and I don't mean just on the that we face this year. I on turning red states blue. That will also help secure our democracy. Misty and I are often up here saying only red and blue, it's only blue until it's red. And when you see candidates to make sure that they delivering for the people, not just the state, but America, in order to provide better opportunities and freedoms, it's important that them as much as that we can. Um, it's not just to help the state of Tennessee or other red democracy. The fabric strong whole. There are gaps is where the weakness reach across that whole. It's the only way that we continue and ensure that our democracy is secure. And guess what? For this later, not the people in this room, but for the people who might listen back, clue themselves in to hear what we're saying, way forward, every selection is the most important that we'll ever face because that's how tenuous our democracy is. It became, we took our eyes off the prize. We took for granted there were stopgaps and from comfortable seat of democracy and cherish it, appreciate it, and we didn't respect it. Those who would say, well, voting, yes, it is. You're ignorant, don't know, you would give up your, it makes no sense. Your vote, only thing they have to defend yourself. Your vote is your, those who absolutely can't bear to stand the youth in our communities, in our coalitions. I really want you to ask why. Unity and freedom and progress so much the wayside for one issue be resolved. Strength populations. Near made a very good point. No one's going to listen to us if we don't have it. That is done. Being an adult, grown behind tools and your interests. To be earned, it has been earned. It has. There are so many threads, there's so much information, but in the net, let alone the airwaves and television, see that your has been earned. People have to remember that when you're dealing many different and such a diverse compromise will always have luck. But at the day, I know for a fact, I have seen the evidence. There is no that you can provide me to contradict what I'm about to say. The Democrats always fight for the most amount of people. And yes, it may come in the leaps and bounds that, but that is the way of this country. That is the way of justice. That is the way of any type of healing that there's no magic. And even if you got it, and so then again, you'd still have to make sure that we're getting out and we're talking to people. And we have to that we're not overeating them. want this? Oh, yes, I want. Maybe if we do this thing together, voting for Biden in your local elections, maybe much voices have been heard. We hear all the protests, we see it, we get it, I understand it, and I believe in humanity. I believe in the of Palestine. I believe of Israel. I have no time for dictators. I have no time for hate and for terrorists. And you cannot, and you shouldn't even want to, because if you believe righteousness of freedom, then not ever or oppressing another group of people. Argument, period. Over the couple of weeks, and it has just sickened me. And I even allowed that anger when I see the governments to take a step back because I know that guess what? There are many provocateurs working many different angles, and guess what? They get me on these occasions that they spew, but falling for it in a very different way. And I need to take a step back the same way I've had to take a step back today. I'm not asking you to. We are going to stand together, period. Way that we are going to win. You're not going to agree with everyone. Everyone has said times in this yesterday. We are all cause, and that is democracy. And I am and so thankful, such an exemplary human being. I can't tell you. Grateful. And I'm going to say it every week, and I don't care if you don't like it. I almost swore. I'm doing my best. I don't care if you don't like it. Here, and I need it, and humbled this cause. And our work doesn't stop in November because protect your democracy, you continue protecting it. Because it's not done and over. Even guess that it would last as long as it has. And that's because people fought valiantly to protect it. And that is do here. And that is exactly what we must do now. Generation will have to do it, and the next generation. We cannot, and we cannot fail. Too big to fail. So is our democracy. So I want to thank you all for tuning in as you do, and for being out there on the front lines. And I look forward to, putting action. I mean, we're in others, and I want you all to any other opportunities for us to get involved as. And I hope a great week.
Well, wonderful. Ditto. Sign all of that. And I want to thank all of you for coming and joining us every week as we amplify the same message in various different ways. Basically, that we are stronger together. I think Helen Keller said, alone we can do so little, together we can do much. And that's the attitude that we have to take into this election. And it cannot be a one and done. What I seek to in a way with these conversations is to not, you know, get people all interested in politics every 4 years around the big presidential to create an army of citizens that are engaged 365 days every year, every election. It matters. And this one would not be so dire if we had that same kind of attitude for some time around our election and around our democracy. Multiple times that I often feel that people kind of took it for granted, that it ran autopilot, that the um, checks and balances that were put in place were finite, that they worked no matter what. But I don't think that people recognize, even after the former guy and that administration and what they did, they literally were going around breaking the levers of democracy, being the gear brakes, putting sugar in the tank, talking about how the democracy doesn't work now, but yet we're still here. And I want people to know that it is here because we have people like you here in this space who are engaged, who care about it, who continue for it. And it is a battle that all of us are called to, in various different ways. And it is just important that we come to that understanding, that we get people engaged and involved at some level in some way, because democracy does not run on auto. It is a democratic for the people, by the people, but we the people must involve. So I just encourage you to stay engaged. And it's so because there are foes who are using every opportunity they can to disengage us, to flood the zone with lies and propaganda, to confuse us, to anger us, to have us with one another. We must stay woke, because, taking that term to mean totally something else. But we must be aware, and I seek to bring awareness to issues. We don't necessarily always have the answers to how to solve them, but I believe the beginning of solving them is first being aware. So that's why we have these conversations every week, and I'm so grateful to you guys for coming and to help, add robust to agenda sessions that we try to have to inform people. But I had mentioned in my research, because I'm always looking to find things to bring to the conversation, to amplify messages that I don't feel are being amplified in the mainstream media, to dig a little deeper on some things that may be addressed in mainstream media, but to help us a little deeper than the surface level sensationalism that's being pushed. And ones that I looked at this weekend was, I was looking at things around discontent and dissent and how that societies, and I came across this YouTube video, and I said it was from Christopher Ruffo. And remember, he's the guy who injected the phrase CRT to mean critical race theory into our lexicon, so to speak, but in a very false way, because there is such a thing as CRT, but it's not taught in high school. And so they seek to take things and turn them into something else, to make negative, to use them as cudgels to create more divide and dissension. And in this video, it's called, I don't want to post it on my timeline, but I want to tell you about it. So if you have time, you go on YouTube and take a look at it, because I think it's interesting. And I think when you're informed, you will see all the lies and how they've been. Like I said, he's not screaming or he sounds, um, like an academician in this particular video. And it's not very long, but I think it's worth a listen. And it's called, Is the West Stuck in a Revolution and Discontent? And, he brings up some things, trying to explain it, but of course, from this right wing kind of viewpoint. But he's not even being honest in all that he raises, because, he um, attends that we achieved racial equality. Like with the 1964, 65 civil rights movement, like we were society, full legal equality. What he doesn't say is that, um, with the of aspects of the voting rights that that kind of made sure that there was not full equality, and totally dismisses you know, areas where we try to broaden understanding about systemic inequalities and those things. He just dismisses it and use it as the Republicans, the right, have always done, by us calling for racial equity as if that is a bad thing, basically saying it doesn't exist. Like, and we know it is not true, and the references that he uses are not surprising. He uses the George Floyd protests, the Black Lives Matter movement, DEI, and these are all the things that they're using to the culture wars, but they are spewing information, propaganda, basically, to fit their narrative. So it's important that we understand the tools that they are using to sow dissension, divide, misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda into our society. And so that of these things we can kind of understand the source, and um, know them for what they are, propaganda and lies. So I just wanted to provide that resource. And a little later, I wasn't able to do it while the space was going on, but I have added some more gift articles to the spreadsheet that I've done. So out, and hope it will continue to grow. And I think today is a good day for me to end the space on a quote from Martin Niemöller, which I have often done. And I think day to do it, to give a little background, because this quote is on a wall in the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. And to give you a little background, Martin Niemöller was a prominent Lutheran pastor in Germany. And in the 1920s and early 1930s, he sympathized with many Nazi ideas, radical right wing political movements. But after Adolf Hitler came to power in 1933, Niemöller became an outspoken critic of Hitler's interference in the Protestant church. He spent the last 8 years Nazi rule from 1937 to 19 in Nazi prisons and concentration camps. And this is how he came to pen the quote that he is for, that I like to read, and hope that people will come to really understand significance, because it's not just the people who are speaking out loudly and proudly against democracy, but also guilty are the people who are saying nothing, who are doing nothing, the people who are willing not to vote, the people who allow journalists to be silent, like Tennessee Holler was totally locked out of this legislative session as a person, and not one press anything about it. Um, it's when things like this are, even though they may not be happening to you, continues silent when it gets to you. Well, anyway, they came for the socialist, speak out, because I was not a socialist. They came for the trade unionist, not speak out, because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me. No one left to speak for me. Let us not be guilty of this. Let us speak out now. Tim Snyder, some of these people who write about authoritarianism, warns us to not obey, along with a lot of other important notes to remember. And I'll be posting more of those on my timeline today and this week. But I wanted to read and then leave you with these encouraging words from the late great Representative John Lewis. No matter how dark and bleak looks, this man walked his talk. He is a civil icon as well as others. He did not do it alone, but sometimes the fight really does for justice, for democracy, really does get hard. It really does get dangerous, but it requires us to fight to hold on to it. And I just don't want any of you to be in despair, no matter what it looks like on these social media apps. Protect your, you don't have to engage in all of these conversations and you be armed with truth, and you can share it when people open to hearing it. But if they don't want to hear it, don't waste your time, don't waste your energy. We have 6 months and we need to focus. We need to have laser focus on what's at stake and the goal. And it is us winning this election and knowing the truth and knowing the issues that we are fighting against, fighting for, and hold fast to those truths and stay active advocates wherever you are, where you can. And just keep making noise and get trouble. And with that, I'm going to the words of the late Representative John Lewis, and that is do, do not in a sea of, be hopeful, be optimistic. Our goal is a struggle, a week, a month, a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime. So never ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. So I thank all of you good troublemakers for coming and joining us every Monday. And I just want to give a special shout out to all the wonderful speakers that we had today. Near and Joseph for coming and giving us a little historical background, Susan for sharing of her advocacy activity. I'm trying to think of it, 2K. Um, who else? I know I'm
Walter.
Walter. Yes, Walter, of course, the very act of resistance, running for office in our democracy. I want to thank him for sharing his time with us, and Ziggy. And if I left him out, please forgive me. Charge it to my head and not my heart. But I just want to thank you all and to encourage you all to continue staying in the fight. We are democracy warriors and we can win this. I feel very positive, but we have to stay focused. We have to continue to fight and uplift great candidates. And we have had a few that we have interviewed, and just remember those. Lauren Ashley from Texas is going to be coming up on a runoff here very soon. So check her timeline out. We have Sabrina down in Florida who is doing a great job, getting great support and endorsements. And Royce Kennebrew, who has been in the space a couple of times, and now Walter. And of course, Brian Robinson. He hasn't spoken in the space, but he has spoken in our Blue Tennessee meeting, and he is to running. And it's very important that we have people running everywhere, everywhere, fighting for our democracy. So help support him. And I want to wish you all a great week ahead. I want to thank you all for helping me always to start week off in a very positive, energizing way.